I want to, I knew that was coming. All right, I want to welcome everyone to the Town of Webster Conservation Commission meeting on this wonderful Monday evening, May 16, 2022. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:35. I'm going to read the excerpt here that most everyone is used to by now. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, section 18, and the governor's June 16, 2021 act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, this meeting of the Webster Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. The board will record the meeting for the purposes of note-taking. Anyone else wishing to record the meeting for personal use must notify the chairman in advance, and that would be me, Joey Wigglesworth. And once again, welcome everybody. So we have two sets of meeting minutes here for approval. April 21st, which we had on last meeting, but they were not ready. They were sent out. Do we have any discussion for the meeting minutes of April 21st, commissioners? Hearing no discussion, do we have a motion for approval of April 21st meeting minutes as written?
I motion we approve April 21st as meeting minutes of April 21st as written.
Okay. Robin with the, and we've got Michelle with the second?
Yes.
Michelle with the second. And Michelle, Mary, want me to do the second one and then run through them all?
No, that's okay. I will do the names. I'm like falling asleep here. All right. Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew.
Yes.
Yay, your first vote. Let's see, Mr. Duteau
Abstain.
and Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, so meeting minutes from May 5th, 2022. Any discussion on the meeting minutes for May 5th, 2022? Hearing no discussion, do we approve a motion for approval of meeting minutes from May 5th, 2022?
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 5th as
Dan with the first. We have a second.
I'll second.
Karen with the second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Abstain.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay, moving on to discussion, Webster Lake Association, Powell Pond Reclamation Project. Did Paul end up joining us? All right, I am not seeing Mr. LaFambroy here. We will just bump that down. So moving on to request for determination of applicability, also known as RDAs. First one up is 32 Point Pleasant Road. This is Deborah Coonan, the applicant. This is for Chapter 91 General License certification, certification for a residential dock. I'm gonna call on Dan to read the notice on that.
In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public meeting is being held on a determination of applicability filed by Deborah Coonan to determine whether installing a boat dock at 32 Point Pleasant Road in Webster is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and local wetland bylaw.
and Karen.
Karen Bartholomew, as a voting commissioner, I will recuse myself from discussion with the board and a vote with the board on this item.
You'll be representing yourself as a member of the community.
If and when I do get an opportunity to speak, I'll be speaking on behalf of myself as the homeowner and a butter.
Okay. And let me see here. Do we have representatives for 32 Point Pleasant, please? We have Ms. Coonan here.
I think we have Mr. Lane here as well.
Okay, Mr. Lane and Deborah Coonan.
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Lane, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great, thank you.
So this is a fairly straightforward request for determination of applicability, of which I'm sure you have seen many over the years.
Mhm.
This is a simple dock, 25 feet in length, 4 feet in width, which will be projecting from an existing wall. So there is no proposed alteration to any wetland resource area. Other than, I guess you can talk about the foot of the dock posts, but there's no actual alteration of any kind or any additional structure. So nothing's really being changed. As I say, the wall already exists. It's existed for before anybody's memory, actually, but certainly since well before 1984. So there's, as I say, there's no wetland alteration proposed in any way. So even though it's in the lake, as most docks obviously are, it would not appear to be within the jurisdiction since there's no alteration being proposed.
Okay. Well, we had comments from recent planning board and other comments of adjacent fill in this vicinity and on this property. Mary, do you have that?
Is that what you're looking for,
Planning.
Joy, for?
Recent planning board
Oh, the planning board.
also, but that's also another article.
Mr. Chairman, I have not seen those comments, but I can assure you that we are not proposing any fill. And to the extent that
Not fill, but fill that exists in this particular, on this particular property.
I am not surprised that there might be fill on this property. As I indicated, Ms. Coonan has owned this property for 24 years. Whatever fill was placed there was long before she purchased the property. And therefore, well, it's a practical matter. We didn't put the fill there. We don't know who put the fill there, but like many properties on Webster Lake, apparently somebody did put some fill in there and put in a retaining wall decades ago, totally beyond our control.
No, I understand that, but I understand that you can't necessarily connect a dock to filled land by law.
Actually, there's no prohibition against us adding a dock to filled land. The Commonwealth is well aware of this. We've consulted with the department, and they have decided that since this
And
improvement
which
was
department did you consult with?
DEP,
And who
Department of
did you speak with at DEP?
Christina Hops. She's in
And
charge
did
of
we get
chapter.
any,
I know
No,
exactly who Christine Hops is, so.
Okay. And Christina Hops has advised us, as well as Miss Bartholomew, that since this retaining wall.
We're not discussing Miss Bartholomew. We're discussing this specific property here with extensive fill that has been put at some point.
Right, and as I indicated, Christina Hops, the chapter 91 licensing person at DEP, has indicated to everybody who's consulted with her that since this wall was installed prior to 1984, the Commonwealth is content to leave the wall where it is. It's not going to take any action to remove the wall, and basically has told everybody the wall is the wall. We're going forward. We're not going backwards. There is no prohibition against building this dock off this wall. And to the extent, that anything happened, 50 years ago, that's history. But the only question before the commission at this point is, are we proposing any alteration to a jurisdictional wetland area? And the answer is very simple. We are not proposing any alteration. And therefore, there's no occasion for us to get a notice, to file a notice of intent.
Well, let me ask you this. In addition to, well, not necessarily in addition, looking at the wall, and I'm thinking in the scope of things here, you're asking for a chapter 91 now.
Correct.
But I'm looking at the wall, which is essentially, say, 30 feet into what is the lake bed, is falling and crumbling apart. From my observation from another property across the way, are we just going to let that fall into the lake? Are we planning on fixing that at some point? Or
Well,
what's the story with that?
the story with that is the portion of the wall that appears to be in some disrepair is a portion of the wall that is within the town of Webster's drainage easement. The town of Webster has a street drain that comes out under that wall in that very location. To the extent there's been some erosion and deterioration, it's the responsibility of the town of Webster's Department of Public Works. And if, we've consulted with them, and they're basically taking the attitude as, we don't care. But, I think it's entirely appropriate for the Conservation Commission to advise the Department of Public Works that they have an obligation to maintain that properly. But that's not even on our property. That's on that's within the department's easement, the town's easement.
Okay, so if there's an easement there, from what I understand from photographs and from viewing there also is a fence that your client has put up on that easement, which does not belong there. And I don't remember any filing ever being recorded for that fence. So the building inspector has sent a letter to have that fence removed. And at this point, there's no cause for us to have that fence. There should be no fence there.
And if you've looked at the record, and I'm sure you've been advised with a copy of the complete record, which indicates that the building inspector's order was appealed to the Board of Appeals, and the Zoning Board of Appeals overruled the building inspector.
But it's a jurisdictional area, which is the Conservation Commission, which you bypassed. It's a 100-foot jurisdictional area. So where was our connection in that?
That was done in 1998, 24 years ago.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I don't expect you know what happened.
Okay.
But it's one thing is clear. Okay, if you've looked at that fence, you can see that fence has absolutely zero impact on any jurisdictional resource area. It does not affect. It does not affect the lake.
Well, if you look at the 8 interests of the act, it's impacting wildlife passage. So I would suggest that the fence. I would suggest that the fence come down.
Well, let me just suggest to you that that's not in front of the board today. What's in front of the board is the question of the commission.
We'll handle the fence on a different matter.
That's totally appropriate.
And so we'll handle the fence in a different manner. And so going back to the chapter 91, and in the way I understand it is, a dock, docks are generally not connected to filled land. If fill is discovered, it's generally under the state regs, it's generally supposed to be, you're supposed to notify the commission. The commission's supposed to actually ask for it to be removed based
Mr.
upon discovery.
Yeah,
So,
Mr.
Well, I can only advise you, as I did earlier, that DEP has looked at the thing very carefully at the request of various people, including the neighbors and the commission. And the DEP has already determined that they are not going to take any enforcement action, and that wall is going to remain. So it's not really an issue. You know, we can spend a lot of time arguing about who put the fill in, when it was put in, if the lake even existed in that location.
well,
You know,
I
the
can
lake,
assure you.
uh,
the
I
lake
can assure you-
shore, the lake shore.
Mr.
has-
Chairman, if I could,
Sure,
obviously there's some questions here other than impact on the resource. And Mr. Lane is making the claim that he has communications from various state agencies saying that what they propose is acceptable. I have not seen those communications. I don't think anybody
No.
else on the commission has. And if Mr. Lane has those, he should provide them to us so we can verify that that is in fact what the state has decided.
Well,
I think that that's appropriate.
I'm happy to refer you to the planning board meeting of several weeks ago when Karen Bartholomew testified personally that she had consulted with Christina Hops and that Christina Hops had advised Karen Bartholomew that the state was not going to take any action with regard to that retaining wall.
Well, why did you just say that you had connection? Why are you passing the buck off to Karen?
Well, you apparently didn't believe me when I told you that I spoke to Karen,
Well, we're
Christina
asking,
Hops.
Mr. Lane, we're asking you for your communications in the matter. We're not asking, you're bringing Karen into something that we're asking you for your communications. And
Well,
now suddenly it's Karen.
I did not record my conversation with Christina Hops, but the town did record Karen Bartholomew advising the planning board that her conversation with Christina Hops was exactly the same, i.e. that the DEP is not taking any enforcement action with regard to this wall. And Karen Bartholomew is online. You can ask her to confirm that, in fact, what she told the planning board not 3 weeks ago. Just ask her whether or not she told the planning board that she talked to Christina Hops, who advised her that they were going to take no action with regard to this retaining wall. Because you've got the video, just go look at it. But
Joey, I have a question too on the boundary lines. There's discrepancies that I don't have in front of me, like you know where I am right now.
Yep.
The other thing I saw is it's not consistent. And I know it's hard to do. Mr. Lane and I had a conversation about that years ago.
Yep.
But given the borders there, we really do need accurate being able to duplicate boundary lines at that corner there, because it is such a small area.
Yeah.
And yet it seems the boundary lines aren't consistent.
And in this depiction here, you can see the two boundary lines, of which I believe Ann, our town planner, had gone. I mean, Mary, am I right? Ann had gone and had looked for the pins and had looked at pulled straight lines and had determined that there's obviously filled land here, which doesn't necessarily, when you have filled land, it doesn't belong to someone, it belongs to the Commonwealth. So connecting a dock to filled land doesn't mean that it belongs to you. You're connecting it to the Commonwealth. And if that's the case, then, I mean, we wouldn't have been, Loveland Road would have been a mute issue a long time ago. And the commission would know what I'm talking about. So, that's the gist of what I'm getting at here, is you're connecting, when you fill in the lake, you're filling, it still belongs to the Commonwealth.
Nobody's disagreeing with anything you're saying. All I'm saying is we're proposing a dock in Webster Lake. We acknowledge that the lake belongs to the Commonwealth.
But
And that's why we need a Chapter 1 license, because we are putting a dock on land that belongs to the Commonwealth. If the dock was on our own land, we wouldn't need a Chapter 91 license. So the only issue before the Conservation Commission tonight is whether or not the proposed dock has any significant impact on a resource area, okay? It's the
Excuse
same
me.
issue that you deal with every time you deal with a dock license. If this dock does not have any adverse or materially adverse impact on a resource area, we're required to do a determination. Who owns the wall or the lake or anything else makes no difference. That's not within your jurisdiction. The
Excuse
Commonwealth,
me.
when it issues a
Excuse me.
license, if it does issue a license, will make a determination of whether it's appropriate. Your question is simply the wetland resource area. It's not the wall. It's not the
Mr.
title.
Lane,
It's not the
Mr.
filled
Lane,
land. It's just within,
I've been doing this for quite a while. I don't need you to explain my job to me.
well, I'm glad to hear that, because then
I'm telling you that filled land is Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
right.
You need to connect your dock to your land. That is the that easement. What you're doing when you file your Chapter 91, which I shouldn't have to explain to you, if you understand this process, is it's granting access from your property to the Commonwealth's property. So in this depiction, you are basically connecting your dock from the Commonwealth to the Commonwealth.
No, we're connected to our land. If you
No,
want,
you're
if you want to argue that that what's shown as filled land is filled land, it's still upland, okay? Regardless of who it belongs to, it's upland. You're asking me to put a plank on the grass to make it legal? That's ridiculous.
Well,
No.
even still, Michelle, go ahead.
We have never given anyone permission to do anything when they do not own the property.
Yes.
That's
You're asking us to make a ruling for someone who has no standing to ask us to do this. Until someone can prove that the state of Massachusetts has given you extra land that you don't have to pay taxes on, we're hard pressed to make a decision on whether you can do something on land you don't own.
I think that's the Commonwealth's issue, okay?
So when you solve it, you should come back to us with proof that the Commonwealth has given you some additional land. Because I'm sure that the tax man of Webster would love to tax you a little bit more for a little more land.
That'd be great, but unfortunately, it's not the Conservation Commission's job to determine title to real estate. Your
You're
job.
right, it's not.
Right,
So
but
when
it
we're
is
in
our-
doubt, we can't make a determination, and
No,
we're in
you're
doubt.
not required to, and you're not allowed to. Your only issue is to determine whether what we're proposing has an adverse impact on any jurisdictional area, and it does not. Title is not your question. That's the Commonwealth's issue. They'll determine whether or not we have the property rights we need. Your only question is, are we going to alter a wetland in a material way? That's your question. And if the answer to that is no, then you say, great, and you move it on, and the Commonwealth makes a determination based on their criteria. But title to real estate is not your criteria. It's not within your jurisdiction.
We're just explaining the red flags of what we're seeing here. And that's our job. And whether you choose to, we can go round and round on this all we want. We can, if you would like, commissioners, if we want to make a decision on this tonight, we can. Mr. Lane, if you want a decision tonight, we can make that decision tonight too.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Chairman. If I get a couple of planks and lay them from the edge of the proposed dock to what you perceive to be the property line, is that going to solve my problem?
I don't think that's appropriate
Why not?
because it's still not, that's,
Mr. Chairman, I think the solution is really pretty simple here. what is missing here, well, about our concern, is anything other than a secondhand report of a conversation that the DEP is okay with them putting a dock on this property, on this particular point. If the DEP, Mr. Lane, could provide us with something that shows the DEP is okay with this, then I guess we're okay with it. But so far, all we have is, well, somebody told me in a conversation, and that's not enough, I don't think.
Well, I appreciate that comment, and that's exactly what the department will do. As soon as this process is complete, and as soon as you've indicated to the department that there is no wetland material impact on a wetland resource area, the department will decide whether or not we're entitled to a permit.
Yeah,
That's within the department's, that's
right, but
within
the
their
point,
jurisdiction.
the point, Mr. Lane, is you're asking us to make a decision on something that we're not certain is even legal in the first place.
Well, but see, that's the department's determination, not yours. The department will determine whether or not we have the legal right to have a dock.
But
That's what they do.
But you're telling us they've already made that determination, but at this point, we have nothing in hand to show us that.
Sounds like, that to me sounds like a pretty, that doesn't sound right, and that does not sound like the department that I know in Boston.
Well, so the answer is very simple. This goes back to the department, and the department decides whether or not we're entitled to a license. They don't give advisory opinions in advance. They give them when the license application is presented.
Well, it sounds to me like you got a determination, which you should not have gotten a determination. If that's the case, that you got a determination ahead of time.
No, if you're familiar with the DEP's Chapter 191 licensing process, you know that the department years ago adopted a policy that says we are not going to enforce removal with respect to alterations in fill that was placed before 1984. That's been their policy for years. Okay,
I know that very well. You know why? Because I work with them, Mr. Lane.
Okay, so you know that's still part of the process.
I do know that.
Okay,
But I also know that you can't connect the dock to what's Commonwealth property.
Mr. Chairman.
Every dock that's licensed is on Commonwealth property. That's why you need a license.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. We don't license docks that aren't on Commonwealth property.
All docks are connected to personal owned property, which are paid personal tax on.
And I'm happy to extend this dock to what you think is the property line by placing 2 planks on the ground on the Commonwealth land.
You have a comment, Commissioner Bach?
Actually, I do, and basically, I'll try to split the hair here. The state ruling that Mr. Lane is referring to says that they will not enforce the removal of said fill. It does not anywhere say that it gives them the ownership rights to that property.
Yes.
So now you are in a situation where you are attempting to put a dock across somebody else's property. And I think that is the basic problem that everybody in this commission is having, is you're not installing a dock at your property. And under your interpretation, I could apply for a Chapter 91 for that same piece of property and put my own dock out there, because it's a Commonwealth piece of property. And since you don't have an ownership right to that property, anybody else on the lake would have exactly the same ownership rights.
Well, that's an interesting argument.
So a Commonwealth piece of property. So if I pull up Mass GIS and I find a piece of property that says Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I can apply for Chapter 91 permit, and I don't own it, and I can just throw a dock on it.
You can certainly apply, and the department will make a determination as to whether or not they're going to give you a license. Okay, they have the right to license people to use and occupy their property. If they decide to give us a license, we get a license. If they decide that it's their property and we're not entitled to a license, we won't get a license. It's a fairly simple proposition, but it's not the commission's job to police the department's control of its own property. But as I said, if it will make you, if it'll satisfy you, if you want it connected to what you think is the property line, I will put 2 planks down on that grass so that we walk on those 2 planks to get to the dock. I mean, we'll connect it to the land if that's what you want. It doesn't change anything. It just kills some grass, but we'll do it if that's what's required. We will take a plank from what you think is our property line,
I
extend it to
think the
the
commission
proposed
needs
dock.
to decide as to how we're gonna move forward with this.
Well, it's fairly simple. You just need to make a decision whether what we're proposing, not what exists, what we're proposing is jurisdictional. You know, you can argue
Mr.
about the fill,
Chairman.
but that's not in front of you. What's in front of you is the proposed 25-foot dock.
Excuse me, Mr. Lane, I have a question for the chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I don't know what the right form of a question or vote it is when we don't believe someone has standing to ask us for something. Right? Because a positive determination sends you to an NOI. A negative determination says we don't see a wetland problem. We don't have an avenue to go down that essentially says you don't have the right to do this because you don't own it.
You know, I'm just gonna bring up what we did on Black Point. There was a similar issue with actually a fair bit more fill. We made a recommendation to the state that an easement should be procured, and that's how we left it. And we granted the negative determination.
That's perfectly acceptable.
I like the information from DEP.
I think that information, further information from DEP, if that's not reasonable, Mr. Lane, then, I mean, and it's not even DEP, it's chapter 91 waterway. And I mean,
That's the EP.
okay, sure.
But I'm not going to get anything from DEP because they don't give advisory opinions. Their process is you apply for the license and you either get a license or you don't get a license. That's the way the process works. So I think what your agent suggested is a perfect resolution, kicks it back to DEP and they deal with it. Takes you out of that where you don't belong. It's a fairly simple proposition.
All right. Commissioners?
Joey, I'd like more information. I'm not satisfied. I mean, this is why chapter 91 was made. It's nice when you have my property, 100 feet, this much by this way. Again, it's a question of where are the property lines?
Yep.
Who owns what there? And there's just too many questions to let this go. I mean,
Yeah,
the whole
that's fair.
chapter 91 is so everyone has access. And this is, I don't think it's abiding by the law. But that's my opinion.
And I would like to make a few comments. I know the commissioners usually review the plans for detail. Like I think we're missing the total square footage of the dock, just a few minor details like that. And there may be other things because I haven't completely reviewed these. I know Michelle usually looks closely. Were there other items that we're missing from this plan?
I don't know the distance across the cove, so I can't tell you whether it's legitimate as far as 1/4 the distance. It does look like it's close to the neighbor on the right, but it is a small property. Usually don't we get a watermark, like a normal watermark on these applications? The average watermark?
Well, it does say ordinary high water, ordinary low water. It doesn't give the measurement though for that.
Where does it say that? I don't see it, Mary.
Are you seeing it are you seeing my screen, Michelle?
That's a pretty shallow cove. We need to know what the depths are there.
The depths are on there.
Yeah, it says 26. You guys can see my screen, right? Maybe I need to zoom in.
Oh, we can
Yeah,
see.
if you could.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Let me know if I need to zoom in.
Okay, no, that's good.
So it says 26 inches off the wall here to the, looks like below water mark. And then 60 inches at the end.
And and then,
So someone's gonna, climb up and over 30 inches? For
What do you
public access?
Oh, right.
That's awfully kind.
Joey? Chairman,
Yes,
I motion we continue this for the next meeting when we have more information specific.
yes.
I would
Um,
also toss in that the commission contact DEP and explain what the problem is and say that we need a definitive explanation of their position. So because this is going to be an item that affects other applications besides this one. And going forward, we don't want to have this discussion every time.
Yeah.
So we need the DEP to tell us exactly how they view this, and so that we can go forward not only on this, but on future applications.
that question needs to include whether someone that doesn't own the land can
Right.
make requests for in front of our commission.
I'll see if I can get in touch with Dan. I'm finding that Chrissy is giving too much mixed information.
Joey, you know that I'm a big advocate of it being a great pond, that everybody can use it. However, there's a point where your property is your property or not your property, and we really need to make that clear. You know,
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, everyone needs access, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to, deny someone access, but, it needs to be done in a manner of which is right. And
No.
well, we can't let one person have access and deny three people, because it's
Yep.
not even their property.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yep.
Elaine, I know you're saying it's very simple. To me, it's very simple too.
That's my point. As I said before, I think DEP needs to step up and help us out a little bit here, because this is going to be a recurring problem unless DEP tells us what they will and will not accept.
All right,
And
commissioners,
I
any other?
mean not in a conversation. They need to officially tell us.
Yes. All right, Mr. Lane, if you have any helpful communications, please forward them to Mary. That way we can next meeting on June 6th, we can hopefully move this through.
I will provide what I can, but I can assure you that the EP is not going to give me an opinion. They may give you one. But as I indicated earlier, I am happy to amend those plans to extend the beginning of that dock to what you think is our property line. If that will solve your.
We
No.
cannot approve
do
a dock that goes across land
Yeah,
or swamp or anything else.
Well, every dock has to have a structure on land that provides access.
Yeah,
So-
the connection point.
all right, so moving, all right, so can I get a motion for continuance of 32 Point Pleasant to June 6th?
I motion we continue 32 Point Pleasant Road, June 6th.
That was Robin.
But, like I said, yeah, as long as we get the information we need too. Right?
All right, I need a second on that from Robin.
I'll second.
Bam with the second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel. Dr. Jewel,
Hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Bartholomew is abstaining. Mr. Duto
Yes,
and Mr. Brown, how did you catch that whole discussion?
No, I came in about 5 minutes into it, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay, Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, moving on to 24 Point Pleasant. This is Melanie Amir. This is for a Chapter 91 license. Dan, I need you to read the notice, please.
in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public meeting is held on a determination of applicability filed by Melanie Amir, trustee, to determine whether installing a boat dock at 24 Point Pleasant Road in Webster is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and local wetland bylaw.
Aaron?
This is Karen Bartholomew, Commissioner, and I will be recusing myself from this discussion or any vote that the commission may take on this particular application. And if I do speak, it'll be only on my behalf as in butter and a homeowner.
Thank you. I want to remind folks that if you're not a commissioner and your application is not being heard right now, please keep yourself on mute. Thank you. All right, and do we have Melanie with us?
I'll be here, Mr. Chairman, speaking for her.
All right, Mr. Lane, you're representing 24 as well?
I am.
Okay.
This is a fairly simple dock permit. It's a 20-foot dock, 4 feet in width, extending from the Amir property. And you have a sketch on the screen showing the location.
No, just gonna listen to it.
Again, it's our position that there's no
You need to put it on.
material impact on any resource area, so we request a determination that we don't.
Leave that.
Mr. Lane, excuse me. Whoever is 774, please mute yourself. Whoever is 508, please mute yourself. You're interrupting. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Lane. Sorry. Mary, could you zoom in on that?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lane. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. As I say, it's a fairly simple proposition, like many you have done in the past, where there's no impact. It's just a request for a determination that we're not going to have any substantial impact on a resource area.
So this one is a little confusing for me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Because I thought 30 Point Pleasant actually had a property line that should extend here like a pie. So it looks like 24 Point Pleasant is using 32 Point Pleasant as their neighbor. So this is a little confusing to me. Because the measure should be from the next door neighbor and it just doesn't look right.
I think what you're saying, Michelle, is that the property lines on the shoreline are not drawn according to the deed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, see, Dan, you're so good at saying it more elegantly.
I mean, you can look at it on GIS, but GIS is not, remember, it's not definitive.
Right. Makes giant blocks.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. This is Karen, the abutter.
Yes.
I put in comments, in the public forum, and I
Okay.
showed the honest and proper property lines according to the deeds. So I think Mary has that somewhere because the commissioner is right. Those property lines are misrepresented.
Is this the right one, Karen?
No, it's actually a mock-up of Mr. Lane's dock application that misrepresents the property lines.
So we've got an ambiguity on two.
Nope, keep going.
I think it's the mortgage plot plan, the item above that.
No,
I did.
maybe that one, Mary.
Yeah.
Amir RDA, Chapter 91 comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Not that one.
Yeah, Kelly was having a hard time with all the documents, I'm
The
afraid.
second batch.
Oh, this
Yes,
one?
I believe that has it. Yep,
Yeah,
there you
there we
go.
go. That's-
Mr. Chairman, this is Michael,
Who's speaking, please?
Michael Amir, Melanie's husband.
Hi, how are you?
Very well.
Okay,
This drawing is according exactly like on the deed, except the area that your new commission member marked as a field land,
yep,
which we are absolutely consider it to be our land. And I just want to mention something. Karen used to live, or the new commissioner used to live on 61 Point Pleasant Road, which was also a field land. She sold that house as a whole land as hers. So she's been a hypocrite in this point, going to this. I don't mind to go to court with her and solve that issue. If she thinks this is not our land, we can go to court and solve that issue. At this point, this is considered as our land, and I don't know if you can see that our fence goes right straight line. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know, because it's probably Mary should see the line between 30 and 24 straight line.
mhm,
That's the line that it's the end of our property. It goes all the way to the fence, which is over there. It's the property of 32, and then it goes straight to the lake. So this is our land. It was always our land for the last 100 years. The property was owned since 1921, and it was never, ever mentioned that this is not our land. We always pay tax on it. It's our land. Since the new commissioner moved last summer, both neighbors starting to get a hard time, and I see a pattern here, and you commissioners falling to this, and
Can you give me those papers up there?
and she is using you to just harass us. And you are falling to this, and this is just unbelievable. So, as I said, it's clearly, forget about DEP. She wants to resolve that issue, take us to court. We will solve that issue once and for all. At this point, this is our land. It was always our land for 100 years until she moved there last summer. And when you see a pattern here, that she doesn't go after dogs that in the cove that do not have licenses, she just go after us. We are trying to do the right thing that 90% of the people on the lake do not have permit for the dog. We're trying to do the right thing, and it feels to me, instead of helping, you're trying to give a hard time to people who's trying to do the right thing. It should be the opposite. You should go after 90% who do not do the right thing.
Well, Mr. Amir,
Yes.
I appreciate your position, but as you probably can tell, the applicant before us had the exact same issue. And all we're asking is for the DEP to confirm that you are correct. And this problem will go away, not only for you and your neighbors, but for everybody else on the lake that has the same kind of problem. But as Mr. Lane pointed out, the decision is not ours to make, it's DEP's to make.
Of course, it's not yours to make, because the zoning board of appeal already decided that it's out of the jurisdiction of the town of Webster. And
Well, we have not received anything from DEP telling us that. And all we're asking is that we get something.
DEP, the zoning board of appeal already made this determination. And the new commissioner trying to go to every word possible in the town in order to get her way. And you are falling into her hands, trying to do the wrong thing when we are trying to do the right thing to put a dock with permit. And
I
Would
think,
like to add to that. I'd like a chance to represent my position on this issue after Michael's done.
Hold on. I'm not, no,
Absolutely.
hold on. I'm not having a meeting coming out of control here.
okay, let me just finish and I'm done. As you can
So-
see, the proposed dock, it's clearly in a land that it's not even in argument.
Mr. Amir, I completely understand where you're coming from. I hear you. We just need to make sure that we're, what we were explaining earlier, we, you heard the whole conversation. We need to make sure that docks are not connected to land that is not necessarily someone that's owned by the Commonwealth.
Okay, so,
It's somebody's, it's actually owned by you, by the person that pays the taxes.
okay, the section,
So,
there's a little section that it's our property clearly.
yeah,
That's even with Karen approval.
which is actually where you have your dock.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah.
having it even on a land that it's being disputed. So this is already not an issue tonight. But to see the bigger picture, you're just being used.
It does seem like with this dock being attached to their land, that this RDA could potentially move forward if it has the proper notation, et cetera, on it, but
I can move it, not an issue.
Do we have the side profile?
that's a good question.
Yes, we do.
Is it at the end? I'm sorry, I did not.
It's-
Yeah.
Based
there
on
is
how
also-
that- Based on how that corner really curves in, that's probably the best placement for it anyway. So we have the side
There you go.
symmetry. Do we have the square footage?
That is a good question. Did the square footage make it on this one?
20 by 40, so it's 80 square feet.
Yeah, the total square footage is not on it, but it does show on the drawing.
It's 20 by 4 feet, it's 80 square feet.
Okay,
It's a very small dock.
all
It's-
right.
It's a standard off-the-shelf dock that you can buy anywhere. It's aluminum dock. And it's a temporary dock just for the summer. We take it out in the winter.
All right, commissioners, how do we feel about this one? It's out of what would be considered the potentially filled area.
So it's not in the filled area.
No, it's slid closer to the Starzyk property, but it's about 16 feet away. So it's within that, at least that 15-foot parameter.
Joey, my only question would be is, does that allow the property next door to be able to put a dock in and out without restricting them being so close to that property line?
If you look at GIS with the satellite, it does appear that that dock has been in that position for a while, and their
Yeah.
neighbor appears to have a centered dock.
So,
Actually,
I
the
think that-
neighbor is Mr. Starzak.
yeah, I think that one's all right.
Actually would like me to move even closer so he can park his boat on the other side, which is not an issue. We are very good neighbors and he had no issue with us. So
So what,
move it even closer, it will be better for him.
what number is that, Mr. Amir?
We are number 24 and I'm not sure, I think it's 22.
It's the
22.
Starzyk, it's 22?
Yeah,
I think so. It's number 50, as you can see on the picture.
yeah, 20, it does have the street number down there.
Thank you.
Yeah, 22.
Navigability looks fine.
That would be my only question. Thank you, Joey.
Okay.
And thank you, Mary.
All right,
Side yard requirements, anything there?
I'm sorry, what was that, Robin?
The side yard, any requirements we have to meet to the side of it?
Yeah, it typically, we do ask for the measurements here. The commission can ask for that, certainly. The distance between the dock and the property lines, although we would know that this one would be in question, but
There is another version of this that shows 15 on one side and 25 on the other.
this is what Karen did, right? So it's not part of the application
Oh,
packet.
no, the drawing on top is Karen's. I think the packet is below that. Right,
This-
'cause I'm looking at a clean copy that looks almost like the picture you're looking at, Mary, except on one side it says 15 feet and then on the other side it says 25.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, so it doesn't show any fill, but it shows from the Coonan property, it's 25 feet to the dock, and to the Starzek property, it's 15.
I can put it in any place that you would like me to put it in order to solve that issue.
No,
I have no problem with that.
where
Mr. Mayor.
it is, Mr. Mayor, I think it's spot on.
Yeah. You just need to add a note of the total square footage.
The square foot is 4 by 20, so it's 80. It's
Yes,
simple.
yes.
I didn't know I have to add the square feet when you have the measurement.
Mm-hmm.
Before
need-
you
It
submit
needs to
the
be
state,
on the plan.
You need to write it on the plan.
Yeah, in your waterways application, the BRP application, you're just gonna make sure that it needs to be on the plan.
That's a VLP application. That's the application, okay. That's this one here?
Yeah,
The one that you see now, yep.
I thought you said VLP, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, looking at the measurement, that's how I thought it would be enough. It's simple math.
Isn't it a minimum of 15 feet though?
Yes,
Yeah.
minimum 15 feet. He's at 16 on the Starzek side.
Okay, okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
seeing that this particular dock
yes,
is located outside of the contested area,
uh-huh,
and it has existed for some time, and we have an application here, which although it's minus a couple of items of information that should be on it.
Yeah.
I have no opposition to this dock. However, I would tell Mr. Lane that in the future, BRP WW 24, the general license certification app instructions are a little more explicit, and they ask you to include more information than you have included on either of these applications. So just a word that in the future, please read the instructions more carefully. They give you a checklist, they give you graphics to show you how it should look. It's very simple.
Mr. Dito, I'm sorry, I did the drawing. I'm by trained mechanical engineer, beside being a pilot. And I did the drawing, but I'll be honest with you, feeling for dock, it was so complicated. It was so tough that
Yeah.
I went to the regional DEP here in Worcester, and I asked them for help.
yeah, they don't make it easy, I can tell you that much.
The woman that came to me, she said, I have no clue how to do this. And let me tell you that some of the form that I need to do for myself, I don't even know how to do. So I think it should be a little bit more simplified if this is going to be a recommendation for you. So more people will apply for the application. It will be simple. And the state can get the fees. You know, there's a lot of people who do not pay the fees, which is good for the state.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but it was very, very complicated.
It is, I completely side with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, so board,
May I speak when you're done?
who is that?
Debbie Coonan.
Ms.
I'm
Coonan,
going to.
we've already continued your project. We can take your comments on June 6th. We're already behind on time, okay?
If I'm
Um,
quick, may I speak?
Ms. Coonan will take your comments on June 6th.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, excuse me, board, can we, are we ready for a motion on 24 Point Pleasant?
I make the motion that the application for chapter 91 dock license for 24 Point Pleasant Road, I make the motion that we find a negative determination.
Okay. Dan with the first, do we have a second on this one?
I'll second.
Fred with the second. Mary, please poll.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
yes,
then Ms. Bartholomew abstains, Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
and Mr. Bach. I have been missing you. How long have you, I haven't been calling your name.
That's okay. This is the first one that I've been eligible for.
Okay, thank you. And if I ever miss you, please speak out because we gotta get everybody on there. And Mr. Wigglesworth,
Yes. All right. Mr. and Mrs. Amir, thank you very much. All right, so now I think we got Paul with us, so we can jump back to Paul and give Paul's Webster Lake Association update. So we can get that out of the way.
Hi, Joe.
Hi,
I'm-
Hi, how you doing?
I'm sorry, when I read the agenda, it said discussion item, so I came on a little bit later because I thought it was at 6:30.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Mary, did you get the plans from Chuck Eaton? Were you
Yeah.
able to?
I'm gonna put them up right now.
So this is the project that you've heard about previously, as far as clearing out Pike Pond entrance from Treasure Island. So this is really the kind of the sticking point that we have is what to do with the material when it does come out of Pike Pond. And our property neighbor, our property adjoining Pike Pond, Mr. Barry is allowing us to use this upland area that's really not really usable for anything else in order to store that material there, which is outlined by these excavation areas out there that Mary has her marker on. So that's the area that we would, if you look at the detail on page 3, we would do some basins similar to what's there in order to stockpile that material. That roadway that's indicated from Barry Equipment to get out there is what we would use to get equipment out there to grab the material from the hydro raker and stockpile it in those areas. And we'd like to make that roadway more or less a permanent pathway to get out there, because again, this is going to be something that's going to have to be done several times. So this is just really just kind of an outline with where we're going with the application. It's not the actual application. Everybody seemed pretty anxious to kind of get some information on what we were doing there. So that's why I want to kind of expedite getting some rough plans as to what we were doing there. So as you can see, the pond area, that upland area that Mary's pointing at now is the area that we would like to stockpile the material in. Most of the trees have been removed there over the years. There was some growth out there. You can see kind of an open area there. And the beavers kind of took care of the rest of them. So that's where we'd like to stockpile the material. And the hydro raking project is basically from the marina to the tip of you can follow the channel that's there now. Our idea is to just make it approximately 12 to 20 feet wide, taking out that organic material that would be in there and then disposing it in those areas, letting it dry, and then coming back about a year or so later to spread that material on that area and leave it there permanently, let it dry and just leave it. So that's where we are with the project. Just to give you an outline, I'm assuming after our discussions the other night, Joe and Michelle, that you want to go out there and take a look at it. So that's pretty much where we are. I also sent in a plan for Treasure Island hydro raking, which has been done several times already. And I just wanted to give you an update as soon as possible so that you know that we were planning on doing that this year, and to get that on the schedule, just so you know where we are with that. As you know, Joe, we were planning on getting the survey done over the next couple of weeks and getting you the map for the chemical treatments at that time. So that's kind of the update. Like I said, I'm assuming that you want to meet us out there and kind of go through this and walk the site and tell, so that we can see what's there. Whenever you'd like to do that, we'd be, oh, that's the Treasure Island map. So this is the same thing we've done. This will be the 4th time it's been done in the last 12 years. Put a turbidian fragmentation curtain across from the point across the beach to the other side to Checkerberry Island. And then we'd rake that area, that one acre area in there, to clean that up. And it would just be stockpiled on the beach. And then their landscaping contractor would be picking it up and hauling it away. They leave it there for a few days to kind of dry up, and then they pick it up with a skid steer and haul it away. The same thing that they've done before.
Paul, I haven't had a chance to look at this very carefully, but it seems pretty invasive for what you're doing. Did you guys look at other options as to where you could offload the materials?
The only other area that we could use is what we did before over by the road crossing on Birch Island.
Okay.
We'd have to offload it there and then load it on trucks, which, if that was the case, if we can't put it on Barry's land, then the project won't get done because it'll be too expensive. It would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to haul that material away. So that's really our only choice. In that upland area, like I said, it's just an upland area that's already been opened up before. I don't know if anybody remembers, about 20 years ago, the state police raided the area because they were growing marijuana out there or something years ago. So it was kind of cleaned off before. It's not going to bother anything over there, what we're doing.
I think we should take a walk out there and look, a couple of us anyway, and see what it looks like, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know that everybody wants to walk out there. Getting there is it's not the easiest terrain as of yet, until we can build some kind of a path there, but we can certainly get there, that's for sure.
When I did the certificate of compliance for 36, I actually, because they had proposed to do work out here and they never did it. So he gave me his canoe. I went out there. It's actually, I mean, it's pretty much, there was some stuff there. I asked him to clean it up. I assume it's gone now. He had like, it's not, there's still junk there.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it is kind of a woods with some junk in it, and it is all wetland. It's an island basically. So you'd be having to cut down a fair number of trees, right, to get this work done.
Yeah, not that many, Mary. The beavers have done a pretty good job in clearing it out. So unfortunately, our beaver population is overwhelming in the lake right now.
I have a question, Paul. The difference between what you're proposing, creating a road into that highland area and clearing the space for the stockpiling of the materials, and then bringing equipment in to load it up and move it out. Why is that so much less expensive than taking it out over by the channel by Birch Island Road?
Well, we're not hauling it away. We're going to stockpile it there, let it dry. Oh, because it's probably about 200,000 yards of material when it's wet, and it's gonna, or 2,000, I'm sorry. And then it's gonna go down to virtually nothing when it dries. Okay. So we stockpile it there, let it dry, and then we'll just regrade it into that, the overburden that the topsoil that we pushed up into the berm. Okay. So we're not actually hauling anything. We're not gonna haul anything away, other than if we had to take some of the organic matter over by Barry's at the beginning of here. There was Mary knows there was a wetlands replication area there. Yeah. When they built that, they built kind of a roadway in there, and they never removed it. So we like to go on top of that area that's already built and then cross that wetlands that was created with the drainage from 395. So,
And you can see that this is a big wetland crossing. You are proposing these temporary swamp mats for pretty much for the whole thing.
yeah, when you get out here on that bottom section, it's pretty dry over there. There's really,
Okay.
they show it as wetlands, but it's right now, you can even walk out there.
Mhm.
And this will be something that we'd be proposing to do probably in the winter time, or, you know, at the beginning or the end of the winter, when the water level's lower, and it really wouldn't be, we'd have very little impact over there. The only real water crossing would be at the drainage area there along 395, which we'd like to propose putting a basin in there in order to capture all that sediment that's coming into the Pelt Pond. But we're kind of looking at those options right now. I don't really need to tie everybody up with, you know, trying to work through this whole thing tonight. I just wanted to give you an idea as to where we were going with the project, just because everybody seemed to have a lot of interest in it. And we finally did get money from the state in order to do this project. DEP was in favor of it, and they're actually the funding agency here. So, I mean, we'll certainly get their support on this.
One more question, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Those stockpile areas, it's hard for me to tell from that picture, but how far are they from the actual water?
You know, we can delineate that after. It's probably, I would guess, 60 feet or so from the edge of the actual water.
And how are you, the material that's going to be removed, how are you going to get it from the water to that stockpile area?
That's what the road, we're gonna bring an excavator out there and park it on the edge of the water. So the hydro rake will bring it to the edge of the water. The excavator will pick it up and put it in those stockpile areas, let it dry for several months, and then level it off and regrade it and seed it and just leave it.
It's solid enough along the edge of the pond to do that?
Oh, yeah, that highland area is actually pretty high. Mary can tell you, it's probably 12 feet above the water.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
looking,
a pretty good hill, actually.
Yeah.
well, I'm looking at the picture above it, and it looks like a stretch of wetlands between that highland spot and the water itself.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, they're gonna come right to the edge here. They're gonna clean this channel. See this, if you look at the channel going right there, it turns to the left there.
Yeah.
No, the next one down, Mary, towards Treasure Island. That area, it opens up into there. The picture is not really great to see it. You kind of have to be there. But the water, the channeled water actually goes in there, and that's where we'd want to go. So you can see it right at the bottom of this picture where the channel kind of splits. Even there you go, down even more. Next one, right there. That brings you right to the edge of that highland area. Or uplands area, I should say.
I thought it was over here. I'm confused. Isn't this the upland area right here?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, I don't know. I get confused with these numbers here. So yeah, you're right. It is that upper one. I'm sorry. It's this that channel right at the bottom of your page now.
One of these, well, this looks pretty
right
open in here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's open. And the next area down, the channels kind of changed a little bit over the years. So I don't know how new this picture is, but. Anyway, so, I mean, again.
Yeah, this is 2019, so.
Yeah, but it's right in there. It brings you right to, there is an open channel. So basically we'd work from the pond side and get to that highland area, and then work from that highland area down towards Treasure Island, bringing that material back to that area. And again, the idea here is to get water flow back into Pelt Pond that would flow through from one side to the other, and open that up so that they would have a better environmental impact on the Pelt Pond area and the population of animals and things in the pond. So that was the idea here. So, oops, sorry.
And, you know, it's not going to be an area where motorized boating would be able to get in there. It'd be a nice area where, you know, kayakers and canoe folk, you know, some,
Right.
anyone that's, kind of low key fishermen could maybe go
Yep.
in there and,
Yeah, you'll likely be able to get in there with kayaks and canoes, but it's never gonna be deep enough to get in there with power boats or anything like that. And that's not the idea. The idea is to do it to make it environmentally better. It's not for recreation of people, within Paw Pond or anything like that. It's really just, it's for the idea of making the water quality better and being able to take care of the water coming off of 395 and having to get to the lake efficiently and so forth. Again, we're struggling with beavers and they're constantly damming up the underpass there on Birch Island. So having an open area there will make it nice. So
another ecological restoration area of the lake. So
right.
it's a nice little.
Yeah. I think it's a great project for everybody. It's just one of those things that it's going to be fairly complex to kind of do the logistical part of it in order to make it affordable. That's really the big problem. So again, anytime you want to set that walk up, Joe, let me know and we can put something together. I don't think you want to do it on a rainy or wet day. You kind of want to do it on a drier day.
Yeah, let's before we get into kind of the crazy season, probably, I mean, I'm sure it's getting busy for you, but, we probably wouldn't want to do it on a typical Saturday site visit day, because we could, easily take up an hour or more, a little more than an hour there. So,
Yeah.
Let me coordinate with these guys and see what day works.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I'm not sure that everybody wants to go. It's kind of one of those things. It'll be a bit of a trek. And last time I went in there, I pulled about 6 ticks off me in about 5 minutes. So
Oh yeah, it'll be a little bit of a bushwhack. So
yeah, exactly. So
all right. Any other
Well,
questions, folks?
Actually, I got a quick question for you, Paul. Where's the inlet to Pout Pond come from?
the actual inlet is what we're going to cross, which is basically all the drainage from along 395. Everything from exit 1 to Barry Equipment drains through that one area. So all that water goes in there. Probably dries up, in June, in July and August, except for rainstorms, but the rest of it's just groundwater that passes through the gravel getting in there. Groundwater flow, I think, is basically south or southeast. So all that water transverses across 395, kind of on that angle heading southeast.
Is
Okay,
the
thanks.
thought eventually, Paul, at some point to I know we talked about it at one point on a walk with Senator Fatman, was to put in the proper stream crossing over on Birch Island.
Well, it'd be nice to be able to go back to a bridge like was there originally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think the cost of that is so overwhelming that this is probably a
Millions.
choice to accommodate the same thing.
Yeah.
The budget numbers on the bridges, because you have to build something temporary to get people in there while you're doing it. It was easy to go from a bridge to the pipe. It's a lot more difficult to go from the pipe back to the bridge. So
Yeah.
I think our budget numbers were like $3 or $4 million for the bridge, where we can accomplish this hopefully for, $250,000. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joey, well,
Yes.
Ryan with me that day that we were out there walking, goes, if I ever get to be senator in Washington, you got this bridge. But I don't know, it's a lot, that's a lot of money.
Well, at some point, if that were ever, at some point, it's gonna have to happen. Because that's the point of access for,
Yeah.
I'm really happy we, money.
100 people, wouldn't be good.
Okay, look,
failed.
Conservation contributed $1,000 a piece, okay? I'll get, I see you guys.
Well, thank you
All
for
right,
your time.
Paul.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, that other Treasure Island one is part of the notice for the other NOI. So you have it. We're anticipating that to move forward probably in July.
Okay,
Is what their proposed schedule is right now. And that's the only thing that we have actually proposed at this, or, really scheduled at this point, is that hydro raking over there at Treasure Island.
okay.
And if anything, as the other things show up, we'll get them to you. So hopefully within the next, maybe not by your next meeting, but the meeting after that, you should have the plan for the chemical treatments. Okay,
Sounds good. All right,
Thank you.
sir. Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. All right, so the next one on our list here for RDAs, Kim and Mike Laramie, 20 Westwind Drive.
Here,
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hopefully, you guys all calm down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see the tiki theme.
All right. So, all right. Mary, you have, I think you sent something earlier today.
Yeah, let me share what I have here. And it's better in the in-person than in this, but that's kind of how it is. We can zoom in. So let me just orient you guys. Here's the water.
You might need to zoom in a little, Mary.
Yeah, and here's the house. So I'm just gonna zoom in a little, although the electrical trench, that's this yellow line. So keep in mind that's going all the way around there, that I can zoom in. Whoa, that was a big zoom. I guess I only have 2 zooms on this. So we're either really close or we're really far.
All right, so. All right, so here's the tiki bar. So
And
we got the yellow as your electrical trench.
Correct.
All right, so
And they had,
50
this is their, whoa. Sorry, guys.
it's all right.
We'll go back to that. Anyhow, they did submit a construction sequence.
Okay.
So I think what's new is the dry well for the sink.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll let the applicant explain that who he talked to. Go ahead, I'm interrupting.
No, that's fine. So
Take it away, Mike.
That's okay. I talked to the building inspector and he told me that he said, that's fine. You can put a 50-gallon dry well in right there. He goes, it's not a problem. And as far as the electrical trench goes, I might be running rigid pipe, and that doesn't need to be direct buried
Okay.
along where the patio is, because it would be hard to, and then up through where the stone is. But as soon as it hits the grass, then I'll dig it down and bring it into the house.
Okay.
So it's like there's a bunch of stone there. That's pretty steep grade there.
Yeah.
And it'd be hard for me to do ditch witch it, and the former homeowner spent a lot of money doing all this architectural landscaping, and I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
So I got to be very careful in what I do. But of course, we still have to abide by whatever the electrical inspector says. So we're going to do what he wants us to do. So.
Yeah.
So he's avoiding all of the landscaping there.
So is
Yeah, I
it
mean,
gonna
you got
be
a beautiful piece of property, and you want to, we just wanted to, make sure that you're doing things by, what Ted's code is, and, if you have to make, if you're digging trenches and all that stuff, we want to make sure what you're doing, conforms with, what in purview, what's getting moved, what's getting, what's getting done, would he be okay with the dry well? Obviously he is, that's fine.
So
So,
I'm confused. Are they digging this trench for electrical and water?
Yes.
Okay, so there's digging. And how's that get dug? By like something mechanical?
No, so I'm gonna dig alongside that wall. There's like a 4-inch space
Yeah.
from the patio block to the wall. And I'm gonna
Okay.
dig that by hand. I don't have to
Mhm.
go down that deep because I'm gonna do rigid pipe.
Yeah.
I can put that right on top if I want. So I'm gonna just dig it down enough just so that I can bury it probably a couple inches and then put it back. The only place I'm gonna be doing digging is way up top where the grass is. I'm not gonna dig through all that rocks. I got all these nice round rocks that come up at a steep grade. I'm gonna run rigid under those rocks and bury it. And that would be the best way for me to attack that. I am not putting gas down there. I don't need it, don't care. I'm just putting some like 5/8 PEX water line and rigid pipe.
Okay. Are we
okay,
concerned about erosion if there's digging there?
are we concerned about what, Michelle?
Erosion. Do we want erosion controls while he's digging?
Yeah, he's got,
I think he was doing a sock.
Well, I got hay bales and silt fence right here alongside where I'm digging the big pad out. If you look, you can
Right.
see it, and I named it to say hay bales with silt fence right there.
And then I
gonna-
meant where you're digging the trench.
So the trench, again, where it is near the wall, it's not really a trench. I'm only going down a couple of like 2 or 3 inches down. So there's really nothing there to do that with. Once I get up top, there's a very limited amount that I'm going to be actually trenching in the grass. Other than that, all through that rock garden, I'm going to run that rigid and run it right under there. I'm not going to disturb the material. I'm just putting the rocks. I'm going to take the rocks and spread it away and then bury it. So I'm not digging. I'm just going to put the rocks back over the rigid.
Yeah, just moving and then putting it back over.
That's it. I'm not disturbing the soil at all. There's plastic underneath that to keep the weeds from growing up. I'm not touching that. It's going right there. Staying right on top of that, on top of that plastic. Again, it's too steep. It's a pretty steep grade. It's
Yeah.
easier for me to just throw the rocks over it and call it a day.
All right. Commissioners, any other items on this one?
What's the detail on the dry well? All it says is a 50-gallon dry well. What does
So
that
just
mean?
the standard dry well, that it's just a 50-gallon bucket that has perforated holes in it, and you just put stone around it. That's all it is. So that way there, all the ground, so it can go right, all that water from the sink can go back in the ground. It'll be all groundwater.
Mr. Chair, I have a question about the drywall and the water.
Sure.
So if it's a 50-gallon bucket,
Yep.
like how do you know when you've gotten to capacity and, if you're using an awful lot of water at one particular time and the dry well fills up 50 gallons, and then does it overflow? And if it overflows, where does the overflow go?
Well, he's just using this essentially for just,
I think.
Yeah, I'm just gonna rinse some like a blender out and put it in there. We're not running it full time like a kitchen
Yeah.
and stuff down there. It's just a very limited use. That's why I
Okay.
did a 50-gallon. I'm not just doing I'm doing a large capacity dry well. We're not gonna use it. It's not
Yeah,
gonna be in
sure.
use like that. That's all.
throw ice
know.
and throwing ice and stuff in it. Yeah.
And I also have an ice machine, and that gives off some regular water too, and that's going to it's going to drain into there too. And there's not going to be much going into there. It's going to be very limited use. And again, I'm going to pack it with a bunch of stone around the dry well, and it'll seep really quickly. I'm not concerned about it overflowing at all.
That's a good question.
I mean, at some point, I mean, if you look at a picture of a dry well, I guess you can I'd probably should have provided you with a detail of it, but I just assumed that everybody knew what a dry well looked like and
Oh,
Yeah.
we've permitted many.
But never for anything but stormwater.
Yeah, I might mention, Joey,
Yeah.
we probably don't want the erosion controls to consist of hay bales.
You definitely caught that, Dan. I was gonna make a mention of that at the end. Yeah, if you got straw bales or a straw wattle, I mean, you don't even need to do bales.
so you want like that
like-
hay there, the straw with the netting? Is that what
Yeah,
you want? Yeah, I can do that.
yeah, if you got that, that'd be best.
easy.
Hay is kind of, it's kind of frowned upon now. Carries
Okay.
invasives.
It carries all sorts of seeds.
Yeah, so,
Not a problem. I can take care of that.
all right. Folks, anything else on this one?
Oh, good.
All right, if we are ready, someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the application for RDA at 20 Westwood Drive be given a negative determination.
Okay,
I second it.
all right, Dan and Robert.
Before we go with the vote, just a question. So I would just assume because there's some site work here that we would have an erosion control inspection and then a final inspection when we're done for me to. Okay,
Absolutely, yep.
all right, Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes,
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes,
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Yes,
Mr. Bach,
Yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, Mike, good luck with your project. Mary will be in touch with you before you start anything. She's just gonna have to do an erosion control,
On-site
inspection.
inspection.
Yep, before you
Yep.
know the drill, you've been through it, so,
I appreciate everybody's time. Thank
all
you.
right, thank you so much. And, you're probably gonna wanna check in with the building inspector because you're doing electrical and whatnot, so.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, good luck with everything.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, on to public hearings here, notices of intent. We have 15 Cedar Point Road here. This is Mr. Longo, replacement of garage and retaining wall. I don't think we opened this one yet, so Dan, do you have the formal
do.
public?
in
Public
accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public hearing is being held on a notice of intent followed by John Longo for replacing an existing garage and a retaining wall at 15 Cedar Point Road in Webster.
All right, and we have Mr. Longo with us. John, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Mr.
How you doing,
Chairman and
John?
Commission.
All right, so we're here to take a look at your retaining wall and your the retaining wall in the back. You're doing some replacement of some boards on that patio that's in poor condition, and then you're replacing the garage, right?
Yes, well, what happened last year when you gave me the emergency permit, because I was getting water into my house, the
Yep.
garage had to be dismantled. So all I'm doing is reinstalling the garage
Okay.
because I had to get access to that south side of the house in order to get the machinery in there to pull the fill out. So that's all been completed. I'm just basically reassembling the garage that was there. The NOI mainly from our last meeting was my wood retaining wall that's falling into the lake, and my deck is kind of attached to it. there was some additional information that the commission needed, and it's really deteriorated. There's nothing I can do in except in the plans I have replacing it with the 2x2 by 4 foot block, and those are 24 inches high. So it's not coming up very high, and we're moving that wall 2 feet inland so that we're out of any issues with the lake.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman and Mr.
Yes.
Longo. Which plan are we looking at? Because I think there were a couple different versions. So can you tell me the file name perhaps so I can pull it up?
Yes, this, Michelle, I think I forwarded this in an email. It is not on the website. Kelly didn't get to it.
Which I downloaded, Mary, but now I have 3 of them. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
site plan.spd2.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to make sure I can see it while we're talking about it.
And then what is on the website is the retaining wall elevations, though. I believe that is the same.
Okay. Because this is the one that earlier I had questions on. So
Okay.
thank you. I apologize for interrupting.
All right. So continue on, John.
So what I'm requesting is that I can repair my deck, which is unsafe currently, to just the exact same footprint. And the new wall, you can see, is on the inside of the old wall, and we're going to leave the old wall in place while we're putting the new wall in.
Yep.
And it's pretty simple. I have my elevations on the side. We're going to dig down. The specs on those stones, 2x2 by 4 feet, they weigh 3,200 pounds. So they require 12 inches of 3/4 washdown, and those are set as a footing. And it's only going up 1 high with a decorative cap. So it's gonna stop all the eroding into the lake, and it's gonna stop my wall from falling into the lake. It'll give me a good substrate to repair my deck. And so on the boat ramp side, I have some bushes and some ground cover from our last meeting. It was a suggestion and that's a perfect location for that.
Okay. So adding some greenery, which is good.
Excuse me?
So adding some greenery, which is good.
Yeah, and
Okay.
any bush recommendation that would do well during the lake, I'd be wide open to suggestions.
Sure. All right, so before we get to that, so let's look at, I guess, Mary, can you go to, I guess, the side view profile, I guess, would be the easiest one is that what everyone wants to look at?
I just had a question before we switch
Sure.
to the profile. It appears up near the north arrow, it says repair existing retaining wall. That's not really going to happen, right? The new wall is going to get put in behind the old wall.
It will be correct, but it has to be repaired. It's basically the existing wall is literally falling into the lake, so it has to be repaired. And the suggestion for repair, rather than putting any kind of timber material on the lake, is to use the concrete blocks. Correct.
Excuse me, John, I thought that was going to be removed, the timbers.
They are after we build the wall, the new wall. It's just going to add a level of protection while we're doing our work. So we'll leave the old wall in place and then put the new wall right behind it.
So it really isn't repair existing retaining wall. You are removing the existing retaining wall.
We're replacing it because the new one can't. The repair portion is that wall it would be foolish to take the wall apart and then put that same wall back in its current condition because it's wood and it's right by the lake.
Right. So it's not a repair, it's a removal. Right?
Well,
or am I misunderstanding?
it's actually a replacement.
Right.
Is what we're doing.
Right. So it's confusing on your drawing because it says repair existing retaining wall, and you're actually not gonna repair it, you're gonna build another wall behind it. Is where it says new wall.
That was the suggestion, to be able to, was to come up with a scenario that would work in the concrete blocks. So, that is the solution for the repair, is to take the old wood wall down and put the concrete wall in, concrete block wall in.
Yeah.
That would be the solution for the repair.
Oh, so,
I understand. Go ahead, Joey, sorry.
no, I was gonna say, so you're gonna brace what you have, dig, say 2 feet behind there, put in the new one, and then get that stabilized, and then take out the old one. So that, I mean, he's got little kids too, so he wants to make sure this is all safe. So obviously I can kind of see where he's going with this now.
Yeah, I can sort of see it now too. It's just when you look at the schematic, it looks like you're gonna repair a wall and build a wall. And then
Absolutely, yeah.
ultimately,
Okay,
you're gonna do the
yeah.
answer.
Yeah, so the new wall is
Maybe
the
you should-
solution to repair.
Maybe you should have a note that says, existing wall to remain in place until new wall is built behind it. So that way it's understood, it's gonna stay in place until the new wall gets in place, and then you're gonna remove it, because it is misleading when it says repair.
Yeah.
And just, it seems like you just need to switch your scope of work there and then just change the word. So it seems like these are,
Just a simple step 6, remove original wall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would just,
And I would probably change the repair of retaining wall to replace retaining wall.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I left repairing from our last meeting because I have to do something with it. I have twin 9-year-olds that love to jump and stand on that wall, and they want to go out on the deck, and I won't let them do anything until it's repaired. So if the commission said I wasn't able to do the block wall like I have in my plans, then I'm gonna have to dismantle the wood wall and repair that wood wall in place, because it's just unsafe. Summer's starting, Memorial Day be here, and all my kids, I can't keep an eye on them. They're always wanting to go towards the water, so I'm worried they're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So you're saying you got normal kids?
Exactly. And
just a semantics question. When you excavate approximately 12 inches down, to put in the stone for the new wall, the material that you excavate, where does that go?
it's gonna fit right to the right. That area is about 14 feet deep, so we're basically taking about 2 feet of fill in a trench-like form, and we're able to store that material, which is all sand. It's a beach right now, so it's all sand. We'll be able to store it right where that beach area is. We'll have to take the deck down to do that work.
When you say store it, do you just mean, regrade the area with the material that you took out of the trench?
Correct. It's all beach sand, so we'll take that material out. Correct, and then as soon as the wall's in place, we'll put our stone in behind the wall. Then we'll replace it with the existing fill.
Okay.
pretty straightforward in my opinion. How are you gonna stabilize that? Are you just gonna drive some rods in the front of that wood one to keep it stabilized while you're working behind it, John?
Yes, yeah, currently it's all bolted together, so it's gonna stay, that's what's kind of holding it in place at this point. Is
Okay.
it's they got lags in it, so it'll stay in place okay, and it'll give a level of protection to the lake.
Okay.
Two questions with regard to the existing wall and the new wall. How is the existing wall going to be dismantled? Is that done by hand?
Correct.
Okay, and then the new wall where you're digging in to get the footing and the stone footing, how is that being dug? With what kind of I don't know.
There would be one of us, a mini excavator.
Okay.
With a 2-foot bucket.
Okay.
So you're just gonna need, John, you're just gonna need a 30 gallon, like we
That's-
had for you for when you were doing the side work there.
Yeah, a spill container.
Yep, that spill kit, just,
Yep.
I'll bring that back on board. And
Sure.
I would just place it, somewhere in the backyard there,
Okay,
just in case. And I would just add that to your plan.
okay.
We still don't have a DEP number for this one, right?
No, I did reach out to them as well. I sent another email after we talked, I think Wednesday last week, and I haven't heard a response.
And you gave them your updated plans, et cetera.
Correct.
All right,
Another minor observation, towards the front, where the deck is, it says 25-foot buffer zone. I believe that's the no build zone, right? That's not a buffer zone. And also on the same side where it's labeled buffer zone, I think you're missing the property line on that side.
I don't have the plan anymore in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry, let me hit share screen again. Sorry, people. So Karen, you're mentioning buffer zone.
Right.
Yeah, he's got it. Yeah, and
Yeah,
really the 25-foot, I mean, it's nice it's on here, but
Yeah.
because it's an existing house, it doesn't really affect this project very much, I wouldn't think.
yeah, it's already developed, so,
Yeah.
So are we considering a dock permit for this one as well? I don't remember.
yeah, he'll need a dock permit for this one. I spoke briefly to John the other day about it. And, if,
Well,
he's,
well, the thing is that what's drawn in this plan is very helpful for us to understand what he's proposing, but it doesn't meet the requirements of the Chapter 91 dock license application, which is a different thing.
yeah,
So that what's there is good for us, but it's not what we need to see as part of the application.
yeah, which is, which he's gonna, he needs to make a couple of changes here. Anyway, John, we can't tonight because you don't have your because you don't have your DEP number yet. We can't close out this hearing. We can't close this out by law.
Right.
All right.
I would contact DEP again tomorrow. And say, hey, I need my DEP number in order for the commission to close out. Yeah, see, there's no number there. If there was a number there, we'd be able to close it out. But we need that number, in order to close out, because by law, we can't close it out.
Okay.
I'd make one other minor comment about the
Yeah.
retaining wall. As far as the new wall goes, we'd like to see the top of that wall be 3 to 6 inches higher than the grass.
Now it's gonna be sand, Dan.
It's a sandy beach.
No, not that side, the other side toward the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
3 to
all sand.
So if that's part of your yard, it should be 3 to 6 inches below the top of that wall.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a grade, the finished grade, John.
Yep.
And then for the Chapter 91, because we might as well just get that going because this is a notice of intent. So, do we have, Mary, do we have the directions on the website for the Chapter 91? For him to, be able to get all the dimensions and whatnot?
I think there's a link to the state website.
Yeah, John, you basically, how long it is, how wide it is, the square footage, area, the square footage. And then you need a side profile, just draw a side profile and how deep it is. At, how far out it goes, what the depth is there. You need a minimum of 18 inches of, berthing,
Yeah,
for safe berthing. How far you are, to, your neighbor Robin, on the right, and then on the left, how far you are from your neighbor there.
okay,
So you should be, I believe you're safe distance, but they're gonna wanna know the distance.
okay,
All those, they wanna know every single, how wide your deck, the dock is. It's usually 4 feet wide, all of that. So
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
any
Miss-
questions on that? Run it by
Uh,
Mary, and Mary will let you know.
I just wanted to tell Mr. Longo that if it's might be some help for him, there's a DEP document called BRP WW24.
Yeah.
And that
Okay.
document, that is instructions and supporting materials for an application, and it has a checklist of things you should do for the application. And it also has a couple of graphics that show you what the pictures on your application should look like.
Okay.
It's not everything you need to know. Some of there's more stuff in the instructions themselves, but that might help you to see how it should end up looking.
okay. I can easily condense that into just a doc and give all the information.
Yeah.
I read a little bit about it. I just didn't, I didn't put in, my major concern was to get the repair underway, just because it's, summer is here upon us.
As soon as you get that DEP number, we'll be good.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. So,
so I'll start getting on the horn with the state. I know that it's a little hard to get a hold of those folks, but I'll do my best.
all right, so, so you got all of the changes on this plan so that you can revise your plan and get the fresh one to us?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I did have, I'm sorry, I did have a question about some of the distances on the elevation plan, if you could just explain it to me, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
I shot grades from the house, and those drops where it says elevation drop to the first retaining wall. That's an accurate drop of 12 inches from there to the main house, which is on a slab. The second wall, the existing wall, is a 22-inch elevation drop from that level line that you see. That's 22 inches, which is approximately 12 inches higher from the other wall. So, and then it gives you another drop from that wall to the lake water line.
Okay.
So it's a total of 44 inches from the house down to the water line.
I have thank you for that, but my question is, it has to do with the second elevation where it says repair existing elevation and retaining wall, and the third one where it says it's going to move 1 to 2 feet inland.
Correct.
So go to the middle one. And
Yes.
it shows that you're 18 feet off of the house, and you hit the first wall. And then it says, is that 12 feet 6 inches?
It is 12 feet 6 inches. Yeah.
Okay, to the wall that's going to be removed?
Correct.
Okay, so when you go down one more, it says 13 feet. So wouldn't it be less because you're going backwards 1 to 2 feet?
It would be, and that's why I corrected that in the main plan so that wall, you can visually see the old wall. That's the only reason I left the old wall in place, besides it was offering a layer of protection, was so you could see exactly where that new wall was going to go. But that is it's just a typo and on the dimension, so I can correct that as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, anything else for John? All right, John, as you know, any questions, definitely feel free to call our office. And as soon as you get that DEP number, Mary should know, but let us, let the office know. And I would, give them a buzz tomorrow and just say, hey, I need to close this out so I can get going on my project.
Hey, Joey, can he
Yep.
Can he like go, it seems like he could remove the deck, because that wouldn't, if he's kind of get started on that, because that wouldn't really require a permit for that, right?
You know, I would, you know, it's that's a safety thing. I mean, if he wanted to get started with his erosion controls, his turbidity curtain and removing the deck just to get a lead on it. I'm okay with that, is if the board is okay with that. Because he wouldn't need a permit for that.
Well, actually, he probably should, if he wants to remove the existing deck, we could just issue an e-cert, since it is a safety issue at the moment.
Which is fine, and then he's covered under, you know, with an e-cert, you're supposed to just file afterwards, and he's already got a filing, so it's covered.
So this is a matter of, you know, there's a safety issue that he's trying to deal with, and this would just make the whole problem go away very quickly.
Yeah,
Off with the deck.
I'm fine with, yeah. All right,
Okay.
and then, yeah, let's let him get his erosion controls. If he wants to do the turbidity curtain, get the deck out of there. Yeah, that's fine. You can get going on that preliminary stuff, John.
Okay, thank you.
And Mary, once you get that stuff in place, if you get it in place this week, Mary can come by and check it.
Okay,
And then she can also give you some suggestions for some plantings.
that'd be great. That'd be
Okay,
perfect.
all right. So, all right, folks, we need a continuance for 15 Cedar Point to June 6th.
Joey, I'll make the motion to continue 15 Cedar Point to June 6th.
Thank you, Hayden.
I'll second.
Thank you, Michelle.
Ms. Chirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right. John, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too. You take care.
Okay, excuse me, Joey, I do have to get going. I'm sorry. You do have
Not-
quorum, so we're all set.
Not a problem. Have fun, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Right.
Okay, folks, so we got about 5 minutes. The Shakely folks want to just give an update on us, for us, and then do continuance to June 6th. So, Mr. Shakely, do we have you with us for 70 Bates Point Road? Or do we
Yes,
have a
you do
representative?
have, but you also have Glenn Kravosky
Ah,
from EBT.
Glenn.
Mr. Wigglesworth, hi, sir.
How did we
Again,
miss
Commissioner.
you?
Oh, I'm always glad to hear you're missing me. I'll be there more often if I can. I'm kidding. No, I'm serious. We did request just 5 minutes of your time. We know that you need information 5 days ahead of time, but we did want to brief you. I hadn't been involved with the earlier hearings. They did call me in. Mr. LaBelle suggested I might take a look at it to streamline it if
Sure.
possible. And so our board, the construction sequence we're working on Chapter 91. We centered the steps, we centered the dock. We will be working on the profile, square footage we have, all the points that are required in the Chapter 91. So we have that on the plan also. But as far as the house, the construction sequence moving from, well, one thing we will say, the boilerplate that was used by HS&T, we will avoid anything that references trees. There are no trees on this property. There are some arborvitaes, but they're not over 20 feet, but they're not also 6 inches in diameter DPH. So they're saplings, not trees, and they were planted for landscaping. But beyond that point, the infiltration that we've looked at, Mr. Art Allen, soil evaluated, had done last week. Infiltration tests show the water table both up at the top of the lot. As you know, there's a 22 plus or minus foot drop down to the water.
Yeah.
And also we did test holes 4 feet deep down near the water to prove that the bottom of the pool will be, as I recall, it's 484. It will be above the water table below above the high water mark in the soil. Those were hand dug, those 4-foot deep holes to prove this elevation. We have also brought in DOT designs for the retaining wall. We're going with an 18-inch, footing, 4,000-pound concrete, so it stays there. We are calling out dewatering. Luckily, there's some sand presently showing at the shoreline, unlike the Ronnie Fields Point Pleasant wall, which was underwater by 1.5 feet. And we are calling out the large sand bags, not the small sandbags, in order to keep the water back as we dig the footings, dewater into, and I'm skipping some steps, but dewatering into the cellar hole that we have, which is 2-minute perk rate gravel, so that that little bit of water that might come into the trench can be cleaned up on our property. Erosion controls. These are all described now in our details. I won't take much more of your time. There is enough room. Let me say that there's enough room to go as we're standing on the road facing in on the southern side, I believe, of the house left, where if you've been there, there's granite steps and granite small patios. We'll be moving on that side of the house to get to the shoreline, and that construction sequence is all outlined. First, we move from the road through construction sequence to the water, and then obviously start building from the water and move back out. That's all outlined also. I don't think I need to take much more of your time on these materials, but again, we have cleaned up the old boilerplate that did come in and made sure that it's tailored to this project going in and coming back out, and addressing distances from properties. So the 2 different permits, the Chapter 91 and also the Wetland Protection Act permit. The wall will be put in the exact same position. We do have offsets like we called out for Mr. Fields and Mr. Kalecki, so that when we build the wall, it will be built in the new wall, as taking out the old wall will be built in the exact same position. That will be surveyed to ensure we're not filling any land in the water body or floodplain, which would mean if the wall went further into the lake, then it would be floodplain. There is no BBW on the property, as you're aware of. Even that small 1-foot 10-inch step at the bottom of the steps going into the water, we're accounting for that because that's some land that's both a small piece of land on the water body there, but also floodplain. We're ensuring that the steps don't get any narrower, because that would take up flood storage. So we'll addressing anything that could remove both flood storage or filling of state Chapter 91 property or land of the water body. So those are all being looked at intensely, I would say. And we'll look forward to getting this plan to you, I would say, within the next couple of days, and give you enough time to review it, and Mary to review it, the commission, I believe, seeing it, and so that possibly, and I believe you must have already had a site inspection.
Yep, we've already been there. Yep.
Okay, so possibly if we get this to you early enough, well, we'll see where you go with that June 6th meeting, but we look forward to that, and we request a continuance to that date.
Okay. Thank you for the updates. Commissioners, anything for Glenn? All right. Thanks.
I just want to, this is Hadi Shakely. I just want to thank you for the time to let us present briefly our plan. I just want to say that we're going to make you all very proud. I took your recommendation from our last meeting to heart. We assembled the best team possibly in town. As you see, Glenn, Alan, all on the names. Henry, Leslie has been doing amazing jobs, and top of landscaping architect who's very familiar with the pool and the permission, and they're all. What I would say, we submit, we start sending the stuff your way, and if there's anything that you see that's missing, any errors, we're all human, make some errors. If you can let us right away, not wait all the way to the meetings, just if there is something that we may overlook. I know Glenn has been amazing, picking on the smallest half an inch something and get us back and fixing it, and that's why we going back and forth, before we even submit it to you, to be sure that it's absolutely 100% complete and accurate. And I took your recommendation as well to pull the pool all the way 22 feet. And actually I took it even more further, a little bit back, did make a huge compromise on the size of the house. But at the end, to keep our, the neighbors and everyone happy.
Well, we appreciate that. We really do. Thank you, Mr. Shakely. And we look forward to seeing everything. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. And Glenn, thank you
All
so
right.
much. And,
So thank you.
all right. And, folks, we need a formal, continuance to June 6th for 70 Bates Point Road.
Joey, I'll make the motion to continue to June 6th for 70 Bates Point Road.
All right, Hayden.
I'll second.
All right, Dan.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel. Oh, that's right, she's gone. Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, moving on to some new business. Now that we've got our RDAs and NOIs covered here. As I'm not sure if everyone, you should be in the know, but some of the new commissioners might not be familiar with Goddard Street. We have permitted probably almost 2 years ago now, maybe a little under, 2 lots, 2 lots on Goddard Street. They didn't get started building on those lots until just a couple months ago. And they've been doing construction in and around the St. Louis area. And it just so happens that I got redirected onto Goddard Street about, 3 weeks ago, Mary? I went by what we had permitted as a board, I happened to notice the 2 lots were under development, and part of the development was a restoration area of a wetland in the back. And there was a broken pipe, a storm pipe that needed to be replaced. And the whole thing is all torn up and cellar holes are in there. And so, long story short, they never checked in with Mary, and a pre-construction meeting never took place. Replication area never had been, we don't know, it never been done. So major violations on their own orders of conditions. So I told Mary that let's just drop enforcement on it. She left a stop work order. They ignored it. I went by there on Friday evening, and work actually had commenced further, so they ignored Mary. And I had pulled over, and I wrote them a second stop work order, love note, and I stapled it to the structure, which is now theirs. Hopefully they get the message and will reach out to the office and work with us, because they're now under an enforcement order, and working under an enforcement order can really be some pretty harsh fines from DEP. So we need to ratify the enforcement order for Goddard Street for beginning construction without proper following of their order of conditions, and being out of sequence on their what they're supposed to be doing.
I assume they did not have a pre-construction meeting either?
No pre-construction meeting. I mean, just total disregard for the entire project, and disregard for their
It might be useful to notify Matt Monroe.
Matt Morrow, yeah.
Yeah, because he was involved in that wetlands part of it, and it might be useful to have a talk with him.
I'll be honest with you, Dan, I've known Matt Morrow for several years, working with wetlands, and Matt didn't seem very comfortable working on that project, and I think he was getting the delineation done and then was just sort of happy to have that project off his plate. So I
Okay.
don't know if he's still involved with those landowners, but you know, it is what it is, but they're under enforcement now and we need to ratify it. So
Okay.
Yeah, and can I give a little update? The owner did stop by today, this afternoon. He is under the impression, he says he's gonna do everything tomorrow. He's gonna do the wetland replication, et cetera, et cetera. We did have kind of a pre-construction meeting in the office. He needs to still put his DEP signs up. He needs to, you know, we need to check for a spill kit, et cetera, et cetera. He has a bunch of things he needs to do. So I did give him permission to start that replication area. So he is hoping that he can be all ready to go and you guys can, somebody can, oh, I told him that I wouldn't be back in the office till Thursday probably. But anyway, he's hoping that he can be all inspected and ready to start work again shortly. I did not promise him anything.
oh, I mean, what
Our-
about,
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Michelle.
So our expectation is unless there's work happening in the replication area, there should be nothing else going on at that site.
Excuse me.
Right, and I have a question about the pipe, Joey, the broken pipe, were they supposed to dig up the whole length of that pipe and replace it?
They were
Or-
supposed to find out from Kenny and get Kenny should have the mapping from the town as to where the connectivity, what, is there an easement through the property? How is that pipe situated through the property? And, the pipe is an old clay pipe and, we had talked, during the whole permitting process that they would be, that they'd be responsible for fixing the pipe. Once they found out, where the pipe was, they would take care of the pipe. And after that pipe was fixed, they would, take out all the silts. There's all silt that's just
Right.
in that area. And then they would do replication.
Yeah, there's some plantings, I believe.
I mean, not necessarily replication. I mean, we're talking remediation, really. I mean,
Right.
but they got they can't take the front loader and dig it out. I mean, they got to take buckets and it's got to be hand dug. And, and that expectation needs to be set that this is a sensitive area. When I was looking in there, and I've got photographs, I mean, there's skunk cabbage coming up through sand. I mean, that's indicative of, there's a functioning wetland under there. So you got hydric soils that are definitely there. And it'd probably be a lot more had, this unfortunate broken pipe at some point. I mean, I don't know if someone drove a car down there and broke it, or probably just freeze thawed, snap. But I mean, it's been broken a long time. But the agreement was they were gonna trace where it was, fix it up, and get it.
Trace the pipe back to the street, up. Okay.
Yeah, and get that fixed.
Yeah, it should have been a fairly straightforward process because there's a secondary drain right at the retaining wall on the street. There's a drain right there, so it would be logical that they're connected.
Yeah, it's such a peculiar, remember that, Fred? It was very peculiar. There's, 5 feet up, you have the storm drain that's in the street, and then 5 feet below, there's another drain.
Yep.
And I mean, we hadn't had rain in weeks, but you could hear water running. You know, so you know someone had their sump pumps, you know, people had sump pumps or laundry or whatever, you know, tied into whatever.
Well, you can actually hear the water block, you know, from the storm drains a block away.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot going in there.
But I mean, it was really running. So,
Can
but
the
I mean,
have a comment on this, please? The public, because I have been there. This is Glenn Kowalski waiting for my next project. That was my client that sold that property. He had me very, if I could, through the chairman, and I'm not going to say any more unless the chairman says yes.
sure, Glenn.
Thank you. Because Di Bonaventura owned it, and I'm doing several projects for him. He's down at Big Pine. He's selling off the last of his properties, Lester Sturbridge, a big mill, historic mill, and then this thing. And then he asked me to look at it
Okay.
when it was getting, because it had, I believe it was not Graves Engineering, but the guy out of New Hampshire.
Yeah,
anyways,
guy out of New Hampshire. Yeah.
Paul Grazowitz, excuse me. Grazowitz
Yes.
had the problem. I called him up because it was languishing with you. And so my client did ask me to look at it, and if they needed, and I was supposed to get involved. I had enough going on. They didn't need me. They didn't call me back, but I did look down in the hole. And so I see that clay pipe had been over the years with the amount of sand that we used to use and some towns still use. It went down into the pipe. That was a very low gradient pipe. I followed it right through the woods, that shelter of sand. And for me, it looked like somebody busted the pipe because it was surcharging back towards the road, simply because the pipe had filled with sand, and that pipe could go for 30 or 40 feet further from that break down through the swamp, filled with sand. Yes, somebody has to look at the easement and see where it is and where it dumps, but that'd be quite a task for, if it is an easement and it's the town's pipe, then some of the owners should have gone on the town, because it wasn't their sand, the owner, the people that bought it, nor the owner. It was a town discharge with sand and delta coming in. And if there was an easement, then the town should take care of their easement. But I don't want to, I'm not just fluffing that off. I did look at the depth of sand out there, 1 to 2 feet, as I went further, 20 feet past the pipe, as it diminishes 30 feet, 40 feet after the pipe. So there are ways to clean the depth of that sand down to the original organic layer, because that's a pretty evident layer once you go through the sand.
Yeah.
But it's extensive. For anybody to think that the stuff would be removed by hand, more to me, if it was a EBT was called in, it would be swamp mats, it would be mini excavators, there'd be a swamp truck, a track truck on mats to go, if you're going to track it all down, because there's literally, and I'm not even going to put a full number on it, but you're talking probably 500 or 1,000 cubic yards of sand down there. This is years and years of sand accumulation. Once that pipe was finally, it looked like cracked to me. I don't think anybody drove on it. It's in the swamp. And then, so the water could get out of the pipe. It looked like a way to relieve the pipe is what it appears to be. When the thing's filled with below it, that's my take on that pipe. And there are ways to clean it up. But I think some of the issues would be for the owner, and this is what I was going to do for my owner if he kept the property, but all of a sudden, nope, it's sold, you're all set. I go, it was great, I'm all set. I don't have another restoration I don't have to get involved in, which I'm in enough of them. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sorry to time up. I'll leave it at that.
I'm glad you did. You know, because I mean, you know, Matt Morrow picked up the job, and he just didn't seem to really want to be bothered with it either. So.
Well, the case is when you ever have a client that might be a little reluctant, especially with me, I've been in this reg since 79, 86, my company. That's all right. I just take them by the neck and take them along, and here's what you're going to do. I have very few clients, no matter what they are, that don't work on cooperation, because they do know something like what just happened. They don't, similar to the guy in Kenneth, they don't follow the site inspections that you require. They're not paying attention. Well, that is a problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to say more that they're, how they just jumped into it without getting you involved as you were supposed to. I believe we all, at least my company, we work to comply with these orders.
Yeah.
I make clients, as far as, let me just say that, we ensure that we read the orders and we comply. I said enough. I do have one more project in front of you, just a briefing, and so I'll get off the line so you can move on to your, whatever you're gonna do.
Joey, I have to jump in because I have to jump off.
All right, thanks, Hayden.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a
Thanks.
good night.
All right, thanks, Glenn. All right, folks, so, all right, so so you met with this gentleman, Mary, and
Yeah, and so a question about the pipe. He's like, oh, the commission never intended for the swamp part of the pipe to be taken care of, just the upland part of the pipe, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're not touching the pipe in the swamp.
No.
Yeah,
that's the part
Stay
that's
away.
broken.
yeah, just the part that's up. Okay.
Yeah, at the time we looked at it, we had no idea where that pipe went to.
Yeah.
We
but that's the
assumed it
part-
went across that other lot over to some other location, but
Yeah,
we had no way to tell.
but I mean, that's the part that's broken that needs to at least be fixed, so we don't have this continued delta effect that keeps happening.
So I guess I'm asking a stupid question here, but so we're gonna reconnect it so it's gonna jam up with sand again?
That might be a question for Kenny to answer.
All right, anyhow, the pipe needs to be dealt with.
All right, the pipe needs to be dealt with. We should probably bring Kenny in on it. We should probably bring in this new owner or whoever is handling this. And we should, we should probably talk with this person about, this restoration that needs to happen and the expectation.
Yeah, I tried to get him in tonight, but he coaches soccer or something, so he
So
legitimately.
why don't we schedule a site visit with him?
Okay.
And, it's probably best that, I mean, this isn't something, that, soccer dad should probably be handling. It really should be a professional.
To do the restoration part.
Yeah.
Or at
I mean,
least to
that
have
was-
someone there to make sure he gets down to the right horizon.
Yeah, and I mean, that was the intention all along, and that's what we had talked about during the permitting process.
Right, and we have Matt's restoration plan with us, so.
Yeah. But, I don't think anything should transpire until we've gone on a site visit, and I mean, that's my feeling, because there's, I mean, the project site was a disaster. It was a mess. There was junk everywhere. There are stones thrown from where all of the where the wetland is. The machine is like parked right there. There's no spill kit.
Right, yeah.
Just no
He didn't have his,
sign.
yeah, the signs weren't up either. Yeah.
So, I think that we should just, do the enforcement order, keep them on the hook until we get this all under control, and then we can, once we're satisfied, we lift it like we do with any other.
Yeah.
I'd like to also suggest that if we continue to be ignored, we look at fines.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. We got, I mean, until we kind of got blown off. I mean,
yeah.
Until I stapled something onto the house.
Yep. Because I don't know, I get the gut feeling that if you drive by there tomorrow, there might be work going on.
All right, so we need to make a motion to ratify the enforcement order.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Am I able to vote since I don't know the history?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown, oh, he left. Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, 29 Beacon Road, certificate of compliance.
We might want to take these out of order because I know we have people waiting for some of them. So
All right,
maybe 4 Black Point next, and 29 can go towards the end. I don't think anyone's here for that.
okay. All
If
right, so for Black Point, we've got.
Unless there is someone here for 29. I'm sorry if there is someone here. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Jody.
All right, so for Black Point Road, we've got Donna with us.
No, it's Mike Hopkins.
Oh, Mike, how you doing?
Good, Joey, thanks.
Good. All right, so you're looking for COC for Black Point.
That's correct.
All right, so, all right, Mary, did we lose Mary?
I'm still here. I'm
Oh, you're
sorry.
still there. No, sorry.
So I usually do a COC review. Didn't really get to it, but I did get out there to take pictures.
Okay.
I do have a few concerns. Mike, I couldn't find your cedar tree. So this, I assume this is one of Donna's cedars, right? But this one's on the property of 6 Black Point. I'm thinking.
Showing pictures, Mary.
Mary,
Oh,
we
I'm
can't
sorry.
see-
Yep.
yeah, we can't see.
Thanks for reminding me to share my screen.
Thank you.
So this tree is the 4 Black Point tree because it,
Mhm,
and then this one is 6 Black Point.
mhm.
Okay,
And then the other tree was supposed to go kind of in this area. I know you, it looks like you planted one up, way up. Of course, this is at the end of my pictures, near the house.
The other side of the front.
Yeah, the other side. So here it is. Right, so that should go down, there was a spit there. Here, I have the plan here, I think. All right, so they were supposed to go, so here's the ones in the right place, and the other one's supposed to go kind of near where the shed is. There's specific spots on the plan for them. So that was just one issue. I think otherwise, we can go back to the pictures. I think things looked pretty good here, so.
all right, so sod is
Mary-
in. Can we hold on
Mary,
one
can I-
second? Hold
Okay.
on. Sod is in,
Yeah,
so that piece is stabilized. There's a gravel berm at the driveway.
and there's a little bit of, this grass is still coming in there, but
Gravel is up against the, yeah, there's the catch there. Is that working out, Donna?
We haven't had any rain.
it's raining here right now.
Just had a nice downpour, I can tell you that much.
When?
Um,
I missed it. Okay.
yeah, I had to get up and close my window. All right, so this is where the stairs are gonna be, so you probably won't see very much shifting there anymore.
So the sod looks good.
Yeah,
This sign is here. It looked like the sign for, this is the post, Mike, from that other sign, right? Looked like that,
Yep.
that
Yep.
had fallen down.
It blew off one of these.
Oh, did it blow
windy
off?
days. Mhm.
But
It's-
Mary, just so you know, that's my property corner on the next lot, not Donna Dunn. So that sign is gonna go there because that's the end of the property. I just put it there because we had discussed at the very beginning that we would put those signs as close to the property, in line with that property, as close to that 25-foot buffer you wanted. So what, the other sign is where it was indicated on the plan, and so I put it in there the way you wanted it. And with the other cedar tree, it was planted down below, but Donna wants to put a 4-foot fence. They put a shed in there. And so we planted it up front that we could transplant it later, but all the trees are in all that on the plan as per se. But that one we did move up front because no matter where we put it back there, from the fence and from the shed and all that, what was going on, the tree being chopped down. So
Yeah.
those went in the ground just to keep them going. So that would be the only thing. I can move it tomorrow if you want me. I'll go dig a hole and transplant it.
Well,
And-
I have a question.
I would leave it there, Mike. It's probably been there for a little bit. It's established. I mean, if
I,
something's
I can
established.
add another one. I can add another one at the end. I mean, I'm there for the next couple of years. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm gonna try to make everything as right as I can.
In front of the shed is quite a bit of the rock that was recommended to put down. So I don't know if you tried to put a tree there, it's gonna be sticking out into the.
Well, yeah, I was wondering if we just wanted to kind of talk this over as a commission as to where that second tree should best go. The idea of the tree was to kind of, we have the two wetland signs and the trees were supposed to kind of, connect the dots between the signs to give a visual barrier. That was the idea behind it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm fine with the tree up front. Commission thoughts?
The tree will survive back there with everything going on.
Tree up front works all right for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fair amount, you got a fair amount of shade, so the tree is gonna, if you put it in the back, it's gonna grow slow. If you put it in the front, it's got a much better chance. You can't really put it along
Almost
that
funnier.
wall because you've got the drainage, so the tree could potentially get drowned out in the first year, or in 10, 20 years, it'll crack the wall.
Yeah, and putting, the original intention for putting it in the back was to delineate the area, and obviously that's not what it would do now, so there's not much point in insisting on putting it there.
Yeah, the new plantings, that replacement plantings that are going in the back will take care of the delineation problem pretty well.
Yeah.
So we might as well repurpose the tree to add to the curb appeal and have it suck up some water.
Yep. All right. Aside from that, any other? I think everything else is pretty well established.
Was there after the visit and some measurements, was there the intention to move that one protected area sign back to the place, location it was supposed to be?
And we did move it back. We put it where Mary wanted it on the plan. We scaled off the plan. It's there. There's a picture. So that plan, that sign is where the plan
Yeah,
was.
that sign's correct. And then the other sign on the other side is also correct.
Okay.
Did we get the as-built?
Oh, that's a good question, Michelle. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, no worries.
I think we need an as-built.
Mary, didn't I submit it to you when I gave you the application I gave you from Steve from BC Engineering?
That's a good question. I actually have the file here. Let me look. I think Steve sometimes he submits a letter. Let me see if he has an as-built. Because you guys submitted the certificate of compliance request twice.
Because I know he did the all three of them. He's because the next two next to him are all set. Almost, I'm waiting for the grass to grow over there, but he did all the as-built, so I'm pretty sure. I thought he told me he did, but when I gave you that information when I submitted that certificate of compliance, didn't he give me that packet, that plan? I gave it to you.
Let's see here. Let's see if this is an as-built here. No, these are all the original plans, but we'll touch base with that.
Yeah, I'll have him send it over to you in the morning. I'll bring it over if you want.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Thank you for catching that, Michelle. We do need an as-built on that.
Sure.
All right, commissioners, anything else?
So Joey, I just want to talk about one concern I have, and Mary and I kind of went back and forth a little in email.
Okay.
So this is one of the properties where if you look under the registry of deeds, the order of conditions is not under 4 Black Point. It's under 0 Black Point, 0 Colonial, as are
Yeah,
the houses within this area. My concern is the conditions that continue on, because when houses get sold, depending on who's looking at the orders of conditions or the certificates of compliance, some people are good at finding them and some aren't. So I'm very concerned about how this is handled so that these conditions that go on forever to protect the area are carried. So I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to chat about that a little bit.
yeah, and we've had issues with this in other areas of town. So,
Joey, can I speak?
sure.
Zero Colonial or Zero Black Point, there's a lot of people, a lot of places out in the town that says 0, and there's no house numbers on those lots. So they just put it under, so when we bought it, it was 0 Colonial. When the town auctioned it off, it was 0 Colonial, and until the house numbers went. But I physically went down to the registry of deeds and put the all the restrictions in all your order of conditions and had it recorded. So each one goes to each one of those lots that was predated at 1930. So as far as anybody researching any kind of deed for 0 Colonial, they're not 0 Colonial, they're under 4 Black Point, 6 Black Point, 8 Black Point. And I recorded those deeds, which were lot number 90, 85, 88, all different numbers, but they're all recorded. So if someone's going to research and say they can't find 0 or it was sold as 0, that's because that was the property. It was back in 1930. They didn't have any number. That's what it was. But when I recorded the deeds, the compliance.
My question would be, was the house sold as 4 Black Point Road, 6 Black Point Road, and so on?
Yeah, Mark Becker issued the numbers. He had to come up with the numbers with it. When you guys approved everything, Donna's was number, I think 88 or 87, 86, 85. Those
88.
were lot numbers, which were the original plan from 1930 because they didn't have house numbers, and Mark Becker issued the house numbers. But yeah, after the lawyers closed on it, it was a 4 Black Point, and that's where the lot number, and that's 4 Black Point. So that's all the way back to 1930. So
Yeah,
those. Go ahead.
I'm just questioning because I went to the records and looked, and I could not find anything for 4 Black Point Road or anything for Mr. and Mrs. Donna anywhere near that location. So I'm wondering just how that information is listed.
Did you try Black Point with no space and Black Point with a space? Because they come up differently. It took me quite a while to find the
But you're saying it's listed as Black Point, one word?
It could be. Yeah, I had to play with that because I found the original orders of conditions, and it took playing around with the word Black Point to find it. And then Mary had given me a book and page so I could validate it. So I didn't look at the deeds. I didn't care about the deeds. I just cared about the order of conditions.
Thank you. I will look that up tomorrow.
Okay. So when
Dan, I got the recorded and the stamps and the book and pages on all those lots if you need them. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can.
If I have a problem, Mike, I'll let you know. I'll get that from you.
Okay.
So Mr. Chairman, my concern is when we put in the certificate of compliance, the conditions that continue to follow forward should be associated with 4 Black Point so that they're found and we don't have runaround like we do on Wakefield.
And so, Michelle, when we do the certificate of compliance, all the continuing conditions are listed on it. And we also, I mean, it just gives you a space to list the numbers. But Kelly and I always make a sheet with all the conditions that are continuing. And that becomes part of what's recorded on the certificate of compliance. So that will be linked with 4 Black Point. If So that will be there, but if you guys want to have them record it under 4 Black Point, the order under 4 Black Point, the commission can do that too. That's, either way is fine.
So I think the proper mechanism going forward is in the future when we've got, you know, a developer that's got 3 homes and it's known as, I don't know, zero Wakefield, like, you know, which we hope we never have again. We want to make sure that when they go to record the orders, that they stop and see Mark and get house numbers before, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I actually go to Mark and I issue the order under the new address.
All right.
So that's
Okay.
something that happens before we even issue the order.
All right, so we've got kind of a stopgap in
Yeah.
there, but as we all know, if anyone's searched a title or searched a deed, you know, the registry is not the easiest, once again, another branch of our government that is, you know, not the most orderly. It's difficult to navigate.
When the application, I got a quick question on this. When these applications are coming in, are they coming in with the actual street addresses, or are they still coming in as 0?
They're coming in as 0. So that sometimes that holds me up when I do the order, is I have to go talk to Mark. And get
Yeah,
that
we
street number.
really should not even allow them to come in as an application until there's a lot number. Because once we accept that application, we're on the clock.
Yeah.
But if
But you know what,
if they don't,
Fred?
we're
So
not on-
Mark, I talked to Mark about this and he absolutely will not issue a number unless he knows that the building is gonna happen. He doesn't like, so I think it's kind of in an in-between state, you know, because we might deny it. It's possible that we would deny a permit. And so I don't think we can ask people to have a number on the application when they submit it.
I point out that I've been on the commission for, what, 6 years? I think I've seen 3 denials.
Yeah.
6 years. The track record is pretty good on it, getting through in some way, shape, or form.
And I know a lot of communities don't allow filings of 0 and then you know, unless it's like a large shopping center development.
I think we're probably getting a little off the point here.
All right, so
Well, we're not really off the point in that we keep running into this problem.
yeah, it has been a problem then.
Ways we can avoid having to keep revisiting.
But yeah, but our point tonight is the certificate of compliance for 4 Black Line.
All right, so, good, Mary, why don't you put that on, why don't we discuss it further? Put it on business for the future. So, folks, do we have a motion for a COC on DEP number 323-1166? Known as 4 Black Point Road.
I'll make the motion.
Fred with the first. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Michelle with the second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Providing I can vote, I'm familiar with the project, but I wasn't here when the original
Yeah,
order of
you-
conditions was issued.
I think you can vote on this.
Okay, thank you.
This
The
is a
answer is
separate issue.
yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes, provided we get the as-built tomorrow.
Yeah, the as-built, we want the as-built. So I won't give you the COC until we get the as-built.
It's okay. Can I just ask one question to Joey?
Sure.
Joe, when I see Steve and we were doing these projects or doing these lots, he made me go separate DEP numbers, separate filings, and get separate DEP for the sole purpose that when you release one of them, it won't affect the other ones. So that's why we did it. And they all were on I'm looking at it now, it's lot 88, 87, 86. So is there something else? Because like Mary said, Mark won't give me house numbers until she knows. I still don't have numbers, and you guys approved that plan going around down Jackson Road, but
Yeah,
in the
it's
future,
just, it's
Go ahead.
just like, even like the lot number, Mike,
Yep.
the lot number is not gonna be the definitive number that someone, or like a lawyer in the future, or real estate
Yep.
agent in the future, they're not gonna be looking for 88 Black Point, they're gonna be looking for, say, 7 Black Point.
Yeah.
So, 0 and 88 will never, like, they'll never be around again. So when you're looking for those, they're only known now, and after this, they'll never be known again. So,
okay. All right, so I don't know, because I'm gonna be doing those other houses, I'm gonna be coming right down the same thing. I don't have house numbers for Mark. I
Yeah.
do have DEP numbers and I have lot numbers, and in the forms on my recorded, on the deeds, it says 88, and then it circles lot number 88 on my paperwork. So I don't know what else I could do to not get into that situation that you guys wouldn't know about the house
Well,
numbers. So.
yeah, when we get
Hey,
to
you know
that-
what, Mike, on those Jackson Road ones, they talked to Mark, he gave them street numbers, or look on your orders, they all have street numbers.
Okay. All right, good.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, all right, bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so do we have someone here for 14 Pebble Beach Road?
No, that's was pulled down. Oh, wait a second, 14 Pebble Beach, yes, Pebble Beach.
Reissuing the certificate of compliance?
Yeah, we just need to, that's
an old one.
Yeah, they lost it, so we just need to, we're gonna give them a new one.
Okay.
So you guys just need to vote to do that.
All right, so can we reissue a COC 323-507 for 14 Pebble Beach?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Michelle with the first,
Second,
and with the second. Done.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
And
And
as-
then,
I'm-
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
I'm thinking we have 2 more things that we have people for on the
Yeah,
agenda.
that's what I was
6 and
just gonna check.
24, and then
Yeah.
29 we can do at the end.
All right, so, all right, so 56, is that for Glenn?
Yes.
All right, so 56 Worcester Road enforcement order for the work. We obviously did the site visit with you. And we talked about some items there. So, all right, so
Update. I called in, well, just for an update on that. Titan Construction, who did the work, is they're preparing this week coming up, not this week, but Monday or Tuesday, to remove that loom pipe back. And then according to the emergency order, you wanted to look at the site to analyze, I believe, the next step. We were hoping to be able to bring Mary in or any other members so that we could continue moving forward to remove the rock fill that's over the slope. Once we show that we're going to remove the loom down only to the original A horizon, and then we're going to work on restoring the buffer zone. And same as what we do when we get into the rock, we'll restore the wetland. We're going to talk about planting that wetland, whether it be button bush or cattail, what it used to be. And then working on restoration of a portion of the buffer zone. And we believe once we come back to the approximate 20 feet that you that had been discussed about restoring 24 buffer zone. We believe that as we're tracking the rock that's on top of the original A horizon in the rock area, we're going to be at the top of the original slope, 20 feet back, with all removal. So in other words, there won't be any rock left on that slope. We're looking to be back to the original A horizon, leave the few 4 or 5 red maples that are still intact on that slope. Make sure we don't damage them by any of our excavator work. But if there is a 2-phase project, again, loom first, then a viewing by the commission or your agent, and then moving, because to move those large machines onto the site out of, I believe they're in Grafton right now. They're building a 5-mile-long road for Venacasa. I would like to get them in there once and then just continue the process of removal. The rock will go inland to behind that existing building in that little enclave that we have that I described. It's over 100 feet from wetlands. So there's enough room over there for both loom in one big pile and rock in the second, and then protection of those areas, but they will be over 100 feet from wetlands.
Now, is the loom gonna be trucked out of there, or is it gonna be spread?
No, no. They want to leave the loom there for any future buyer. This will be, that's right directly behind, if I could say, standing on the road, facing in, I guess, behind that building. If we're talking, if we're looking eastward, if you're standing on the road looking towards the 395, I'll just call that looking east, whatever it might be, looking towards 95. That loom would go behind the existing building. So directly behind it, there's a stone retaining wall. Above that, at this upper tier, there is an area that was cleaned out of loom and rock. And that area is about 150, 175 feet, I'll measure it, from the wetland. And we would put the loom in there up against, but not over the property line, but up against the left or in the direction towards Oxford, if we want to call that north.
Okay.
And they would use that loom in the future to stabilize and loom around any proposed buildings in the future. But we do need to, again, if need be, and the commission says, I want to see it hydro seeded when it's sitting there as a longer term solution, we'll bring hydrograss, which is another client of mine, and we'll hydro seed that whole loom pile. The rock, we don't believe we're going to need much stabilization, but we will put wattles at the base of both of those piles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that plan sounds good. I mean, obviously, your assessment on the loom pile after it has been moved and it's sitting there, and if you think it's gonna creep blend, then hydro seed or jute cloth it or whatever you need to do. I mean, that sounds sufficient to me. Board, what do you think?
Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Were you asking that when you're able to get those people to come in and move the loom pile, you would like
the beginning of
yes, sir. You would like us to come over there around the same time so we can say okay and let you continue to work?
I think the enforcement order gave me, it appears from the writing, that it gave me permission to remove the loom pile, then to put on hold until we come up with a strategy on the rock removal.
Yeah,
I will put this. Yes, sir.
On the enforcement order, it was to basically stop everything.
There was an emergency order.
What we did is we said, loom pile is an actual current hazard. So we then gave you an e-cert to remove that before it falls in and causes more damage.
Right.
While we go through the rest of the plan.
Yeah.
So this can work out to be pretty seamless, but it was kind of we saw a urgent need to get that stuff moved.
Sure, sir. I can put together a 5 or 7 bullet point items on removal, informing the commission where it's going on a plan. I could put an X mark on it and show that it's whatever the distance would be. It's a scaled plan. We do have a scaled plan now of the flags and of the silt fence and of the steepness of the slope. It's a 2-foot contour map of what's out there, and we can describe how we're going to do phase 1 under the emergency, and then inform the board, come up with the planting scheme once we see the full extent of this buffer zone under the loom altered and come up with possibly a grass seed or a contractor's mix or a logging mix on the upper part of that pile, but down near the wetland, it would be more of a buffer zone restoration with some plantings of white pine, red oak, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
with a conservation seed mix closer to the wetland.
I think that's,
Erosion control is already in place. We will lay it out. I'm sorry. Go on, sir.
no,
sorry.
I think that sounds sufficient, Glenn. I mean, and once that pile has been moved, if Mary, wants to, just check it out, if she's around or if she's on vacation, one of us or, we can take a trip by there on a Saturday or whatever, take a look at it
Okay.
and bless it.
Thank you.
But
We'll
I
send
think,
an email right. that
Yeah, I think
describe that we're done.
I think a bulleted list of, this is the process and, that's good. I think it sounds good just to check in. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Commissioners,
Okay.
anything else on Worcester Road?
Yeah, I have a question. Glenn mentioned that there is a good topo now and a good plan that's to scale. Were we gonna
Yes.
see that at some point?
Yes, we can forward that at any time. The next 2 days, we'll get it over to you. Next day, tomorrow. It's not a delayed thing. We're just working with National Grid because a small portion of the loom pile did go onto that railroad right away. It's not a right of way; it's an ownership. They bought the railroad line, and so it is fluffed over onto their property. Where I'm presently talking to their real estate people. We need to get them, and we want everything in place by next Monday. Luckily, I have a good rapport with National Grid, but that's the only other thing that I'm working on, because some of it, again, is on the railroad property, a former railroad. It's now National Grid. It's an electric line now.
Yeah,
So
I
let me
did
get
see
it
that.
over to you. So, yeah, let me get that over to you. We'll keep you informed as to our correspondence. It's only a small portion of the pile that's on their land. I do want to get it out of there. We have to go through their attorneys and some other things, but I think I can handle this in a short term because they allowed me to do work on that Millbrook Raceway on their property, and so I have good contact attorneys and their real estate people, and I think I'm working to expedite it on that matter. All the rock is on our own property. The loom, I'd say like a fifth of it maybe is nipping into theirs.
Go get him,
So
Glenn.
it complicates matters a little bit, but nothing we haven't handled before. So let me get bullet points to you. I'll keep you informed on National Grid. Titan said to me today, and I told him this is an enforcement action. I need you to give me an answer for tonight's meeting when you can get out there. I told the client if they have to hire somebody else. I don't care. I want to get it done. I want to move on.
No,
I'm presently on the hook for it because they did it, and I think they're doing me a favor taking it out. But that's their favor in me getting something done. And the client's anxious to satisfy you and get away from this problem. So then that's my job. Move it any way I can.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We really do. So.
I appreciate you guys just letting me get something accomplished over here. That's all.
All right.
The same thing I bring up. If we're done with this, we will eventually get back to Sandino. I know I always jump into some other project, but that's all removed, and we're just working on now planting that. Just to leave, because it's not on your agenda, but you might think in the back of your mind, is Glenn doing anything on that other one? Yes, it's removed. I'm going to leave you with that. I don't want to keep complicating it with other projects.
Yeah. All
But
right.
that looks good. Okay.
Good. We appreciate it. Thanks, Glenn.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening. Thank you for all your work.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so 24 Point Pleasant, discharge into lake. Melanie Amir, do we have Melanie with us still?
You have Michael again?
Michael, how are you?
I'm good since last time I talked to you.
Good, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate it.
I'm already in my pajamas.
Big agenda tonight. Sorry about that.
Anyway, I have good news. There is not even one drop of discharge from the sump pump into the lake.
Okay, great.
We did something temporary, like a dry well temporary.
Okay, great.
Next week, we have professional to come and look at this so they can advise us also how to do it, so it's not gonna freeze during the winter.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
It's all done, it's all as you requested, and we plugged also their old existing pipe.
Fantastic. We appreciate that. And if you can, just keep, just keep contact with Mary. I did actually talk with, a professional that I know, and we were bouncing some ideas back and forth on some ideas because your property is, it's close to the shoreline, and your sump pump is sucking up the groundwater. And we were trying to figure out what would be the best solution for you. Would it be a filter box? Would it be a dry well? Would it be, how, you can't necessarily send it in the storm drain, but you can't really send it into the lake. But it sounds like maybe routing it to some sort of a dry well or some sort of a filter box around the corner of your house, so that it can kind of just kind of get back into the ground would be the best solution. But I made a lot of my contacts that work in that consulting field right now, they're so inundated with work. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get back in touch with you on that, but
I appreciate what you did so far.
Yeah, if you're running.
In the meantime, I got my PhD on the subject.
Okay, there you go. If you run into any problems, let us know. But whatever you're planning on doing, at least partner with Mary and let us know, so that so we know what you're doing, and that way, if we need to do an admin, some sort of administrative order, she can at least sign off on it for you.
No problem. I will wait for that company to come over. They're coming from Walpole, Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's hard to find company that will do it. And they will tell me what we need to do and how we need to do it. So because this is, a freezing area, and it needs to be done correctly.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out what they suggest.
And can you send pictures of your temporary and the cap on the pipe for our records?
I did a bucket that I put holes in it, and I dug it into the size of a 5-gallon bucket, and then it spilled a little bit on top, but it's going on the grass, and from the grass it's going back to the ground. It doesn't go to the lake.
Yeah, so just send us some pictures that you can email me pictures. That'd be great.
Is that gonna have to wait? Probably I'm not gonna be there this week at all.
Okay, that's fine. When you're there next.
I will send you, no problem.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, you and your wife. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, you take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so 29 Beacon Road. Do we have anyone for 29 Beacon Road?
I don't think so.
All right, so do we need to issue a COC for them?
Yeah, so this is Perry's property.
Defense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get to the pictures for that. And so.
This isn't for what we just.
Yeah, no, this is the same property that we were just looking at. For here, so here it is. This is 29 Beacon. So the gutters near the road do not appear to go in the cul-de-sac, but he does have a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Are they supposed to?
Well, let me just check the plans here. It's one of those things that it's a Stephen Balsavich plan. He might not have been clear on that. And actually, we should have Mike is the one who built it. He's probably not on the line anymore. Two cul-de-sac chambers, And it looks like he just has a line going from the back of the house to the Coltex.
I don't understand what it
No,
is.
actually, it's from the front. Actually, his line goes from the front of the house and not the back of the house, which is silly. So, yeah.
Well, that, I mean, my comment for, there's plenty of lawn there for that to, the water to get in the ground there. So,
Yeah, so this was a rebuild, and this whole patio area, this part was original. The only thing they didn't do is there was supposed to be another patio kind of where this tree is that they never built. So I'll just reflect that in the order that piece of the plan was not built.
Yeah, it's better the way it is.
Yeah, it's definitely fine. And this is that cute little island there. I think that's fun. And this is the other side of the house. Everything's stable and looks good. And there's, again, the gutter. In this case, it's going out into gravel. So.
Yeah, at least that's, a dissipator there.
And there's the driveway. And all this water will be going towards the street and not the lake, actually, because of the slope of the property.
Yeah, I'd rather see like a little gutter splash thing under that gutter.
Gutter splash plate under this one?
Yeah.
Sure.
You think so, Fred? I think that.
Well, either that or a couple of bigger rocks. I mean, that looks like 3/4 inch stone.
Yeah, I would probably just.
And if you get a good storm coming out,
that's true.
It's gonna slowly chew right through that.
Well, Fred, this has been here actually, I think 2 or 3 years. So this is 2 or 3 years worth of wear on that. But yeah, a rock there would be helpful, I'm sure. So
yeah, I would just say, either buy a dissipator.
Like a nice, flat. They over at Home Depot for a couple of bucks, you can buy like a flat paver.
Could even buy a piece of slate that's that purple color.
Well, he might even have some leftover pavers from his project.
Yeah, I would do that because based on what I'm seeing, it looks like that it doesn't look very serious, but if you look between the little arborvitae and the gutter, it looks like it's starting to shift a little. Not a lot, but particularly right under the left-hand edge of the arborvitae, there seems to be a little bit of washout, which is what you would expect because it's kicking out at 45 degrees.
Actually, Mary, if you look, follow the wall, and on the other side of the arborvitae, look at how it goes. See how the rock is creeped? Look at the top of the wall right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's actually
it's creeped
a little bit. It's a real issue.
I wonder if you can see it in this picture. So this is looking at it from the other side. So
I just don't, Steve does this all the time. He doesn't tie in the gutters into the Coltex. It blows me away.
Well, if you're looking on this side with the propane, there's not a lot of lawn in there before you hit the lake. So if I remember right, the argument was kind of you have no place for it to really dissipate on that side of the house. So therefore, you put a little more on the other side.
Yeah, so this one, it looks like he's got a rock on it. But yeah, there may be a little bit of problem here.
Yeah, I would just recommend to him that he needs, he's identified deficiency on this side, so it looks like he's trying to control it, but.
All right, so should we still issue a COC with just that recommendation?
I wouldn't hold up the COC just for one downspout.
Yeah. 2 downspouts.
Yeah, I would just say that he needs some rock dissipators underneath both of them, and then that's fine.
Okay.
And we need to see photographs. All right, so,
Actually, on the as-built, since there are Cultex on the property,
Oh, good point. As built for
they
this
should
one.
be showing where they actually ran the drains into the Cultex, so we can see what the difference is.
I don't know if an as-built was on that one.
Yeah, this one doesn't, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, this is an older one. We didn't require as-built for these. This is back in 2018.
Well, we may not require it, but I'm pretty sure we can request one.
Yeah. Don't think you have to give one to the building department anyway.
I'm not sure how often that gets enforced. I don't know.
Well, if it's sitting there on the books, even if it's not enforced, it kind of gives us a leg to stand on.
yeah,
So we can ask if there's an as-built.
I mean, Steve did the drawings. I mean, did the.
Actually, for the-
plans. I mean, it just requires him to print it up.
yeah, actually, because he did it, didn't he talk about that a little bit for the new project? About doing an as-built, I'll ask him.
Yeah, I would cross-check with him. Either that or, well, yeah, now it'd be good to have an as-built with this, but I was gonna say, when he's done with this new project, we'll have an as-built. Cause I mean, there's really nothing else that Perry can do on this lot. I mean, there's
Right.
there are no trees and there's nothing else to build.
Oh,
Um,
you'll be happy to know that I'm thinking about writing something for our for the website. Why we love trees.
It's tough. It's tough. And you know what? We're not the only community. It's Mass Audubon is really taking a big, they're trying to get a force going across the Commonwealth with, communities are just seeing a major canopy. People are cutting trees down like crazy everywhere.
Well, I've been finding useful scientific information on why we need the bigger trees.
Oh, that's good.
It's like, I forget whether there's 10 or 20 gallons per inch of diameter on a tree is what gets drawn up. 90% of that actually goes into evaporative cooling. And my tree out front has roughly 900 square feet of shade that it provides to the lawn on a daily basis. And those are things that you don't get from a small tree and won't get for 30 years.
In a warming climate. I mean, it's.
Yeah, so basically you point out things which people don't know, don't think about, but once they see them, they go, oh.
Yeah. All right, so let's issue this COC and then I want everyone to meet our new alternate.
I have one question about the COC.
Sure.
It looks like there's a lot of rock, and a lot of wall and not much lawn. Did they build according to plan in terms of what was supposed to be lawn or vegetated? Do you know
Yeah,
that?
Karen, this whole area and back was already there, so they didn't change that really much at all. And
Okay.
yes, and this patio was on the plan. So
And I would point out that if you have loose rock like that, it is technically pervious.
Yeah.
and it's funny, you can't see, there is actually a nice lawn here. I guess I didn't grab a picture of it. They do have a pretty good lawn just over to the right of this picture.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of lawn there, but there is lawn.
It's about the same size as the driveway, I would say, about that much, maybe not quite, almost.
All right, anything else on 29? All right, can I get a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for DEP 323-1100?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Fred? Who's second? Michelle with the second?
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right. All right, so next up, we do have, I wasn't actually expecting it tonight, but we can take a few minutes. Mr. Parent is on the line with us. Rich, are you there?
I am.
Rich, good to hear. Good to hear you. Rich, there you are. Rich has sent an application to fill the alternate spot that Karen was in. And I asked him to join us. He's been obviously to Conservation Commission meetings and to he's been through the application process as he lives on Michelle's side of town. I just wanted him to meet everyone and give himself a chance to introduce himself and talk about a little bit about his background and if anyone has any questions to feel free to ask Rich any kind of questions. So go ahead, Rich.
Please, thanks, Joey. I really wasn't expecting to have to
Putting you
talk.
right on the spot. There you go.
Okay, well, as you know, or some of you may know, I moved here from New Hampshire. I lived most of my adult life in New Hampshire. I grew up in Western Mass, but I'm a biotechnologist by career. I have my master's in biotechnology. Spent about 13 years in the biotech field, primarily in startup situations, working in cancer biology, did a lot of molecular and cellular biology. But then it came to a point where I had to, well, I didn't have to, but we decided to adopt a young lady who had special needs. And so my wife also works in biotech. So one of us had to have a career change because it was difficult to care for her outside of school and vacation. So I thought something else, another passion of mine was teaching. So I was fortunate to be able to find this wonderful, the state of New Hampshire had just built a biotechnology teaching in Milford, New Hampshire. And so I spent about 16 years teaching and growing that. As part of that time that I spent doing that, I also, because I had previous experience in the Massachusetts Science Fair system, and I always really sort of believed in that. That's something I didn't have when I grew up in Chicopee, Mass. And so I took what I had experienced at Lexington High School and at the State Science Fair, and I built something in New Hampshire, which is very similar because they didn't have anything. And so I was pretty proud of that. But then it came to a point where my daughter had graduated from high school. We were successful. And so I decided that I wanted to go back to biotech. And so started off in a career in Worcester, and now I have another company, working at a company called Ivexol, which is it's a lentiviral company. And essentially we work in the cell and gene therapy area where we build lentiviruses, which is responsible for basically imparting new genes into cells, particularly good at being able to either re-characterize T cells to attack cancer cells, and or could be used to supplement bad genes. So in the case of like bubble boy disease or other diseases where defective genes are. So yeah, so the Conservation Commission is, something I've been through. I think conservation is always been something that's been close to my heart, because I think I've always thought of myself as a wildlife biologist, and I end up in biotech instead. But And I think too, just an opportunity to sort of get involved with the community. I think as a teacher, you're very connected with the community. And since being down here in Webster and COVID, I feel pretty isolated. And so I really wanted to get involved. I've not just this meeting, but I've been in other meetings, just listening, sort of making the idea that throwing around in my head that I wanted to do this. I know I have a lot to learn. And so I think the alternate position is really great. If I had to choose, I'd probably choose this one over an actual appointment, primarily because I really want to take time to learn it and do a good job and not necessarily just jump right into something and not, do it half as well as I could.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Well, you've got part of it right. There is a lot to learn. But
Yeah.
probably as difficult as the things to learn is how things get, the application, how things get used. You might have seen some of that if you've been watching our meeting.
I have.
Yeah, the difference between an RDA and the NOI, and there's tons of acronyms that you're here, and the regulations in itself and all the mechanisms, and it's a bit luckily there are a lot of resources out there to help out. Mary is wonderful with that. You've got a knowledgeable board that will help and support you, and Karen is still learning her way through things. Karen is a former civil engineer, right, Karen?
I was an environmental engineer for the state for many years.
Environmental engineer. So, she brings an immense amount of knowledge with with engineering, which, it's interesting. Environmental and engineering often don't go well together, and it's sometimes it's two different languages, and to get them to talk together, it's interesting. But Fred's got Fred's got an interesting background. Fred, you worked with computer science, right?
Yeah, I've done 30 odd years of working with computer systems analysis. And when I went to college, I actually minored in civil engineering.
Yeah, and Michelle is just koi pond and trees.
Michelle is that tree hugger.
Listen, I actually had a career in IT from
yes.
That was my career. I'm not an engineer, but it's not like I hang around and just pick daisies.
No, Michelle had a very successful career in IT, and geez, Dan, I don't even think I know what you did.
What?
I think it's all secret. Well, I don't think I know what you did. What's your background?
I have had a much more varied career than you know. But
okay.
But it has allowed me to be able to see things sometimes from a different perspective, and sometimes things that don't see relevant. Years later, they come back to you. Yeah, it is relevant in certain cases. So, Mr. Parent, as you can probably tell, every once in a while we have a little fun.
Yeah,
not every day, but sometimes.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, but
Actually,
no,
I did want to mention too that I think two unique things that I bring to the board is an understanding of microbiology. So I've taught both at the collegiate, the high school level microbiology, and I'm also an avid bass fisherman. So I'm always on the water, and yeah.
That's great. So once you learn the regs and you really get into, wetlands and functions and values and all of that stuff, and it all comes full circle for you. I mean, it'll,
You'll never enjoy just being bass fishing again.
yeah, you'll be looking at properties and you'll be like, oh, I gotta turn my head.
Yeah, we,
But you know, my background is environment. I have a master's in environmental science. So, you know, and my undergrad is, it was environmental science, but I mainly was physical and environmental geography. So anything, I'm like an earth nerd. I really am. So earth processes and anything earth. I'm a geek. So, but it's definitely it's great to have this diverse board. You miss Hayden. Hayden has a background in construction. He's been working in construction for about 10 years. And then Robin is, what is she, an ophthalmologist, I think? Robin's a doctor, an ophthalmologist. So we're, you know, a wide array of different backgrounds. And, you know, we each bring something different to the table, and we all balance each other out. So,
And before Joey forgets, none of us could live without Mary.
And absolutely.
Oh, I already know that.
We
don't forget that.
We cannot live without Mary. You know, so we hold Mary very near and dear to our heart. So.
And she is talented and well-educated, and probably the most patient person on the entire board.
And let me tell you, she's just always just brings this level of calm. And then, of course, we have Tracy, our clerk, our steno. Tracy's there in the background. She takes our minutes. And then we also have followers that are usually with us. Pam and Patty are often with us, and we usually have Eric that's with us. I think you may have met Eric the other night. We've got you know, a lot of citizens follow us now that we're virtual, which is nice. So it's great. So it's great to have you. So with that, can I get a formal, we need a formal recommendation to send this to the select board so that Mr. Parent can be sworn in through the select board. So can I get a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Fred with the first, Dan with the second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
Oh,
All right, congratulations.
Yeah, one more thing, Mr.
Yes.
Parent. As you could tell, we're friendly with each other. So at the beginning, there's a lot of stuff you don't know. Feel free to contact any one of us anytime to ask questions. Mary has all our contact information. So
Absolutely. And tonight was a longer meeting. I have been making a huge effort to shorten them. But often we get some projects or applications that are, they're a bit pointed. So,
well, what he really means is once in a while we get one that's easy.
Get one that's easy, yeah. Get one that's, pointed. So, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So just one last thing, Mary, anything in the agent's report? Did you have a chance to do one? Anything major?
No, I think the Goddard Street was the main thing, and everything else will wait for another time.
Okay, I do want to make one final announcement. I did have a conversation with Mia from DEP about 114 Worcester Road, which is LaPlante Brothers. That was one of my reasons why I was running late today. She is going to escalate that to Judy, who is the section chief. And they may take they may get the DEP task force involved in that. And that's not a good thing. When the task force comes in, that's a bad thing. So
Well, it depends
it
on
is-
whether you're process oriented or result.
Yeah, no, I discussed the I kind of discussed the history. I discussed about how it looks the same as when I was, 5 years old driving the car with my mom. She did an aerial view of it. She may take a ride by it with a car. I explained to her that there's a stream that runs through there. DOT has seen it as they are doing work to get the culvert and the stormwater drainage under control there. And they were a bit blown away that that site looks like that. I did also let her know it's a former garage site. I don't know if there are, another thing that I don't know if any of us have thought about. Are there possibly tanks underneath that site that have never been excavated? So, Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup, we need to get in there. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be DEP and their team. So she'll keep us updated as to what happens, but it's not going to be a good drop in. I did forward her the email, Mary, with the letter that got sent to us.
Mhm.
So she's got that. So just in case you get a phone call from Mia asking about that specific situation, Mary, you're not caught off guard. But I wanted to let everyone know that I had that on my radar and I talked to her about that today. I didn't have a chance to talk to her about some other things. But with that, it's late enough. Rich, glad to, you still have to obviously go to select board. I'm sure Mary will either let you know or Courtney usually emails folks and lets them know, hey, you're on the agenda for appointment. Once that'll probably be on the next selectmen's agenda. So, but thank you very much. And we're happy to have another one on board.
Joey?
Yes.
Before you sign off, I just, some of the things that were being said were untrue and I didn't feel it necessary to correct the record. But the thing that I know you said you'd follow up on, and we'll know as a commission with regard to Chrissy Hops giving permission to connect a dock to land that you don't own. I would like to know if that's a true statement. I would find that hard to believe based on all the conversations I've had with her. That's an interest to me.
It is an interest to me too. That is not something that anyone at the state level typically would comment on. I do as a, I obviously work for an agency that's a liaison between the state level and the local level. And I work with those folks, a few times a week, and that's not common for them to make comments that,
Not definitive like that.
no, and that was
Well-
coming off very definitive.
That's why I said to Mr. Lane, we're talking about determining that we're not sure that what you're asking for is legal. And we're not going to take a secondhand conversation as proof of that. If that's in fact the case, have somebody officially tell us that it's okay. And it will solve a lot of problems for us if you can do that.
Well, I point out that, as I pointed out earlier, the fact that they're saying, well, you don't have to remove it is not the same as you have ownership or any rights to the property. You may have just landlocked yourself.
Yeah.
You don't actually have rights to that land.
I'm gonna get in touch with some higher folks than Chrissy Hobbs. Chrissy knows, she's up there, she knows her stuff. But this is not the first time that I have, not necessarily with Webster, but with other communities that I have dealt and heard of Chrissy saying one thing, and then with another community, it's another thing. And, whether it's confusion or whether it's, maybe she's thinking situational, I don't know, but, I have some other contacts.
I suspect a little bit of expediency is in the mix.
Yep. So we'll figure it out, and, it'll get addressed. And if not, there's,
It's just a state employee's reluctance to open a big can of worms.
yes, absolutely.
So what Chrissy did say, which I have the email, and I'm not sure if that's what Mr. Lane was referring to, was that she was not going to enforce Ms. Coonan to take out the jet ski. If you remember, I shared that email. It had nothing to do with the wall or ownership. It said that they just didn't have the personnel to pursue that.
Yeah.
That's what she did say, which I took great offense to, and I sent that all the way up to as high as I can.
Yeah.
So that was said. I don't know what he was talking about with regard to the wall or anything like that. That was never part of a discussion.
I just brought up the wall because I just see a failing wall, and, I just wanted to know, when I'm looking at a project, or when I'm looking at I look at the whole thing. I look at the big picture.
Well, that's the thing. He's a lawyer, and he wanted us to make a determination based on solely on our area of jurisdiction, and ignore the fact that we didn't know if it was even legal for us to do that.
Correct.
And that got us real far at Wakefield, or Loveland, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It got us 5 years of problems.
Yeah,
Just
and
that question.
and that is exactly what I threw out there was, that would have just reversed everything at Wakefield.
Absolutely. And if that was so true, then I should just fill out an application. If anybody, and I think one of the commissioners said that, if
Well, that's what
everybody had freedom
Well,
to
that's what I
apply.
said. Why don't I find a spot and I'll just throw up a dock?
No
Well,
doubt.
not that I would ever suggest it, but you could, under the guidelines that Mr. Lane laid out,
Mhm.
you are equally entitled to claim
Absolutely.
a particular stretch of Commonwealth land to build your dock.
Yeah, that's just so untrue, because I've had a year's worth of history of discussions that I've documented with Chrissy Hobbs, and despite the last email, which she said they weren't going to enforce anything just because of lack of resources, it was very clear that you cannot put your dock connected to Commonwealth land. That was very clear and not ambiguous whatsoever. So however we get that clarified, I would, of course, be interested as a commissioner and as an abutter.
One more thought before I have to go.
Yes, I'm gonna,
You have to understand that the state is the state and they will ignore everybody's trespass on their property until they decide that they don't like it,
oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it could go on for years and years until the day they decide they want to use it for something themselves. And then all of a sudden it's your problem.
You know,
Absolutely.
Anyway, having a good night, folks.
hey,
All
Dan,
right.
I got a quick 30-second one on that vein. For years, Frank Perdue with his chickens, the poop was the problem of the farmer until Frank Perdue suddenly figured out that he could make money from it. And all of a sudden that became Perdue property.
Thank you
All
for that.
right. Motion for adjournment at 9:15.
I'll make the motion.
Fred, the first.
Second.
All right, Michelle with the second, all in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.